Are you ready?
Yes.
I didn't see him. I didn't see him. I didn't see it. Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would we all stand, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a red pen in there, I think?
Our next order of business will be the approval of the minutes from the August 29th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections?
I'll move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes of the August 29th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I abstained because I wasn't here.
Well, that's a correction then. We need to take her name off. I was going to ask that. She was not in attendance.
Didn't even like.
Okay,
It
that's
says,
true.
commission members absent, Leslie and Ralph.
Okay, it does say that.
Oh, it does. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, so they are approved. Moving on to the next item of business, we have citizens' comments. These are comments for anything that you would like to comment about that are not on the agenda. Do I have anyone that has any citizens' comments? Next, we're going to our Carroll and Frederick County planners. We'll speak to Hannah first since she's here. Good evening.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So just 3 updates I have. The Ag and Conservation text, zoning text amendments, the public hearing was last Thursday. We received several comments, specifically regarding the ag remainder provision. Everything is up on the website if you would like to read up on it. If not, I can always send it to you specifically. Just let me know if you want a copy of it. We have one more work session with the commissioners on October 6th. If they need another work session after that, we will go ahead and schedule it. If not, then it would be adopted on October 6th. Next, the full property annexation that you all heard last month. The county commissioners approved the zoning waiver that was presented to them last Thursday. So we will get a copy over to you guys as soon as we get their signatures on the comment letter.
All right, thank you.
And then lastly, we have the transportation tour is on October 13th. And that will be for elected officials to attend, and I believe it's at the county office building.
Transportation Forum.
Well, it's the tour that the state puts on for all of their projects for the upcoming year. And like I said, I believe it'll be at the county office building for elected officials.
And do you know what time that's going to be?
I believe it's 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Do we need to sign up for that, Hannah, or just show up?
I believe elected officials will receive a personal invite.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yep. Any questions?
Anyone else from the
All right.
membership? Thank you.
Have a good meeting. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
One quick question. Hannah, looking out over the next 6 months, do you see any amendments, any ordinances that might affect Mount Airy?
Well, this will be the last zoning text amendment. Well, there is one for the commercial and I believe it's employment campus that is being heard right now, and that is for business parks and a solar amendment for the employment campus districts. That is being heard by the Planning Commission right now, and all those text amendments are again online. I don't think it would affect you all. I know the surrounding area is mainly residential and ag, so those are strictly for commercial and employment campus districts. But like I said, if you want a copy of them, I'm happy to send you anything you need.
Why don't you go ahead and send a copy to John if you would, just so we have them that way too.
Will do. Is that it?
Thank you.
Yep.
Tim Goodfellow was unable to attend tonight's meeting. He did not forward any additional information for me to give to you.
Okay, thank you, John. Just a point for Hannah. When, do you want to explain the waiver for the full property for those that aren't here,
Yes.
that online?
So the waiver is basically because the zoning will be potentially twice as dense as what the zoning is in the Carroll County current zoning of agricultural in the R2. We have to request a waiver through Carroll County for the future development of the property, which they would not have to go through the 5-year waiting period to allow for the development to start. So that allows them to, if accepted by the town council, for them to be able to access town amenities at a R2 level.
Okay, thank you. All righty, our next order of business is for introduction and possible approval. It's the Arby's proposed changes to the elevation and signage, and we do have representatives here. When you come, please state your name. You don't have to state your address. I don't think you live here. Can we get,
Good evening,
good
everybody.
evening, welcome.
It's Gary Brent. I'm the permit expediter assisting the franchisee and tenant in the sign permit process.
Pass them down, it's all right. You got it.
Sorry,
No problem.
I was
How's
going
everyone
to
doing?
throw them, but. Go right ahead.
Yep. So maybe the best way to go through the sign package, if you guys need to, is to just skip to page 4, where the elevations are. And that'll be, we'll go through these. So the east elevation, let me first start by saying this is essentially a replacement program. Everything that's existing is being replaced. So there's nothing that's essentially brand new. It's again, it's a re-imaging is what this is.
Okay,
So the east elevation, you see the Arby's hat logo. Again, that's a sign that's replacing the existing, in the top right corner, you see the photo, there's Arby's letters up there on that facade already, so we're replacing that. There's a red eyebrow, non-illuminated, I want to say canopy, but it's a striping, aluminum striping that is proposed for this elevation as well.
okay,
The next page is the north elevation. Again, there's an RB sign that's going to be attached to what essentially is a canopy that goes over the entrance for the customer, along with that, again, that red eyebrow, non-illuminated fascia stripe. And again, in the top right corner, you see it's replacing a sign that's currently there. And also some awnings are being replaced. This, again, is a re-image to the current Arby's standard. The next page is the south elevation, another Arby's logo, hat logo. These signs are all internally illuminated with LED. Again, replacing top right corner, an existing Arby's letter sign. The canopies are going to go away as well, and it's going to be replaced with a red eyebrow, non-illuminated stripe. And in the middle there, you'll see there's a that's on a different elevation. I take that back. So that's what you have basically is a red eyebrow stripe. The next page is the west elevation, shows just a continuation of the red eyebrow stripe. And then there is on the right-hand side, you'll see the canopy that's over the window for the drive-through.
okay.
The next page is replacement of the top Arby's head the sign is being replaced with a similar size sign. Actually, it's a little bit shorter, so the overall height becomes a little less. Then the manual changing reader board is being refaced. The cabinet's going to remain, but the faces are going to change.
And you're going to keep the hat?
Keep the hat logo is, again, it's a different, slightly different style, but again, I believe it's the current Arby's brand. So,
Okay,
but it's going to, on this pole is going to stay.
okay,
They're going to replace just the head of
right.
the sign on the pole. And then many of these details, these are just specifications, give you dimensions, mounting detail, lighting detail, just flipping through the pages. If you guys have any questions, certainly let me know, but these are all basically specification type pages. And then until you get to that page there, probably good place to stop. So that is a canopy. Maybe the page before that looks like one more page back, possibly. Yeah, there you go. So that just gives you a little bit of a breakdown of this striping. Again, it's aluminum. It's not necessarily stripe painted on, it's not painted on the building. It's aluminum attached stripe. It's non-illuminated. Again, just gives you a little bit of the breakdown. This is the floor plan, shows you the location of everything. Key pieces are, in the top center, sort of right there, where it says 72 inches, that's the canopy for the drive-through window. And further down that facade on the left, where it says CL, that's the canopy for the entrance for the customers, the doorway. And then the rest of that is just that red aluminum, non-illuminated eyebrow. The next page gives you some specifications about that metal canopy that's above the drive-through. And the next page, so one page back, yes, thank you. That's the canopy over the entrance. That's a corner canopy, I'm sorry. Yeah, right, over the entrance to the, if you look at the walkway, it's got posts in the ground to hold the canopy up, but it's a canopy with a set of illuminated letters on the face of it. This is over the customer entrance.
It doesn't seem like it sticks out far enough to allow for customers to get in between, unless there's a large overhang on the building. You're only talking 48 inches deep, so that only allows for, 40 inches? I guess that's adequate.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, I think, for a canopy over an entrance. I mean, although, unless you have like a sort of, maybe a restaurant where you have an entrance where, they drop people off, they're walking along, you'll see some of those, dining establishments where you'll see a long awning, with a walkway. 4 feet is pretty standard for,
Okay.
It keeps you from getting wet when you're right at the door and when you're coming out the door, sort of.
Right.
Maybe it's someplace to stand until you can get to your car. But it's pretty standard, 4 feet.
Okay.
The next page, so this is the canopy for the ordering drive-through menu board. So if you look at the right view, that's if you're driving towards that's what you're looking at when you're driving up in the drive-through lane. And it's, the key I learned this evening, breakaway canopy. So if someone hits that, it has a pivot, sort of, it pivots the whole structure so that they don't, A, crash their truck, or B, damage the sign necessarily. So this view is from the back, the left view. That's if you're from the front. That's if you're in the drive-through lane, you're looking at it. That's, again, the canopy over your head, so when you're ordering, you're not getting wet in the rain.
Madam Chair, I do have one question, since we're on the menu board.
Yeah.
Are you planning on replacing the menu board with the LED or something at this stage? Because isn't it still the old-fashioned? I'm just asking if you're doing it or not. It's not on the plan, so I don't think you are.
For the record, I'm Chad Adams, 19 Canterbury Circle, Downingtown, Pennsylvania. I'm the project manager for Arby's on this project. We do plan to retrofit it with LEDs and, just clean up some of that technology in there. So it's, number one, it's, it stays lit all
Yeah.
the time. And number two, so it reduces the maintenance. So we are going to do some general retrofit work on that.
Menu board?
On that menu board.
Okay.
And the preview. I believe there's a preview board at this location, just a single little panel. Same thing. It's just
Okay.
more maintenance work on those items because
Okay. But it's not
they're
one
in
of
pretty
the
good shape.
computer screen LED?
No.
Okay, it's just more the backlighting type?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. Mhm. Excuse me.
thank you. Sorry, just,
Thank you, Chad.
Wonder was trying to figure out if it was part of this package, which
Yeah.
it's not. You'll
No,
have to resubmit something else that I can approve through our ordinance. Once you get to that point of retrofitting that, that should have been part of this packet.
Oh, okay, it was with electric permit, is that what you need?
Well, it would just be what you're basically, I guess it would go through Carroll County for electric permit. We would just sign off on that, but usually you'll submit something showing what you're proposing.
Wasn't aware of that, but I'll get
Signage detail.
Yeah, it's no worries.
Yeah, we'll complete the package, and then, like you said, Carroll County will take care of the electrical permit, but we'll,
Just add
Fill
a
in the blanks.
supplement sheet for this, and I'll be fine
Gotcha.
with that.
gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
no, you are.
The next page just, again, gives you a little bit of the plate detail for that breakaway that, method that I mentioned, just how it pivots. And then the last page is actually, I don't even know if yeah, that's interior, so that shouldn't even have been in there, I don't think. So that's an interior sign. I think that's everything.
Chair, I had,
Yes, sir. I was going to say, any other questions?
yeah, thank you. Chad and Gary, thank you for the explanations. 3 quick areas, easy one first. Because of the addition of the canopies in those drive-through areas, there's no proposed signage with regard to height warnings or high-height vehicles striking those canopies.
It was
Is
on
that,
there. It was on there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
just
on there.
on the drive-through
my bad.
canopy, if you look at a few pages back, yeah, there's a clearance on there.
okay,
And, once you pass that, it's not on the canopy over the window, but if you've passed that and you've hit it, there's a good chance you'll probably know you're not going to make it under the canopy.
understand.
Maybe,
Breakaway.
maybe.
Gotcha. Moving to the diagram with the pylon sign.
Yes.
If you could go back to it.
Yes.
Showing the current and the proposed.
Sure.
Fine, this is very delicate.
Right there. According to our code, these types of signs, I believe, are described as lighted box signs, and you use the terms lighted box in that page itself. And I can read that definition just to make sure that we're on the same page. My concern is that for this particular zoning, our code specifically prohibits lighted box signs. Now, albeit there's one already there.
Right.
So I just raise that as a point, whether we have a document that has a history of exception for a lighted box sign. And then the last item I have is comparing the area of the current sign with the new sign. There's an increase of that lighted area about a third. It's about a 30%. It's a larger sign. Again, you state it's on the same
It's
pylon.
similar, right, it is,
Right.
yes, but it's
And-
not, it is a little slightly larger, shorter, which would, from an engineering standpoint,
Correct.
where I was talking about it, it was a
Correct.
little less overall height, so, but I'm not an engineer.
Right.
So,
And so my question really is from the fact that East Ridgeville Boulevard, where that sign is oriented toward that traffic to draw in the patrons,
yeah,
increasing that lighted sign by 30%, could I ask, is there an alternative that we maintain the same size sign for compliance with what is already there?
go ahead, Chad, that's a Chad question.
Thank you. The way they've changed the branding on the sign slightly. And when you do the rectangle around it, which is how you determine the square footage of the sign, it does come out to be slightly larger than the old sign. But if you take the effective area of the sign itself, it's slightly bigger. It's not 30% bigger. It might be 5% bigger than the surface. If you just take the area, total area surface of the sign. And having said that, I think there is a sign that when you run the box, the perimeter dimensions, which is what you use to determine the square footage of the sign, I believe there is a sign that will fit within that, and it might even be slightly smaller than the one we have here. The existing sign.
Could we explore that? I'm only thinking
Yeah,
in
no,
terms
that's fine.
of,
I mean, we can
increase, do we need a necessarily larger sign? I don't know if that's to reach out to the interstate, I'm not sure. But,
You're asking the wrong guy. No.
of course.
Realistically, yeah, I think there is a smaller sign that we can put in there. From our perspective, the visibility on the sign is more important than the actual size. And I think, based on my opinion of where we're at and where we're looking at that, we could probably achieve the same effect with a downsized sign, which, again, the process is we send this off to a design team. Well, design team just happens to be the name of the sign company, but a design team, and they come back and they tell us what we should be putting up. And that's what we move forward. It's sort of corporate mandated. Having said that, if there's alternatives or objections to some of the stuff that doesn't necessarily fall within the guidelines, I think those options are available. So I believe there is a sign that will fit within the box area that we have on the existing sign. It may be a little bit smaller, but if it's smaller, it's smaller. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, since this is basically a replacement program, is this going on throughout all of your locations or most of your
Yes.
locations?
Yeah.
Then in terms of the design and the size of the sign, is that fairly consistent across your locations?
It is. I mean, it depends. Most communities have the same, very similar sign ordinances that allow you to vary the size of the sign depending on the frontages and setbacks in the surrounding areas. And so it is fairly similar. This is, from what I've seen and what I'm aware of, this is pretty typical. It's a standard,
But bottom line, you're willing to be responsive to our
Yeah,
request to
yes,
try to
absolutely.
maintain the same size if possible?
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So when I look at a sign permit for specifically this sign, I don't look at it as being a giant rectangle. I look at it as, if you look at the second image down on the right, you'll see where it has 3 separate rectangles. And that's how I would determine the actual square footage. So if you look at the current RB sign, it's very more of one rectangle with a little smaller rectangle in the middle, possibly the bottom. So without looking at it closer and running numbers, I'm not sure if it is 30% larger, as Ralph is stating. He might be stating at the actual rectangle, the 96 by 66 compared to the 86 to 95, which is not how I would calculate signage.
Okay.
Because again, you have this situation where there's 3 rectangles really, and to just blanketly say one giant rectangle is not fair to everybody. I try to be consistent with my signage, and that's how I would calculate it
All right.
in-house without bringing it to you.
Yeah, if I may just add on, according to the code, the square footage of any sign is determined by the maximum height of any sign and the maximum width. And then that forms a rectangle for determining the square footage. And that's according to the code. But I know visually, I understand your point. I'm just, again, being the code police here with regard to the square footage calculations of current compared to that is about a third larger sign going down that boulevard.
May I interrupt? I'm sorry. If you did draw a rectangle, again, keep in mind the hat logo sign is shorter. It's not wider than the sign underneath of it, the menu board. So if you're including the menu board in that rectangular area, you're not okay.
Because he's saying, well, yeah, we're not even
It's,
including the,
the new sign is 57 square feet in a rectangle. The existing sign is 44. We're 13 square feet larger is what we're proposing, so
30% that he's talking about.
roughly.
Okay. You didn't do a staff report?
I didn't, because this is just a
An
normal
introduction?
introduction. Typically, this would just come to my desk for signature, but because it was a total refit on the whole property.
Right.
And the signage, I just wanted to bring it to you for your approval prior to moving forward.
If I can ask a question, if we do propose a sign, just trying to understand, it's similar or smaller, like Chad mentioned, than what's existing, is that something that can be done administratively, or are we back to the board next month, or just trying to get an idea
That's
in
really up to
general?
the chairperson
Gotcha.
to make that decision,
I gotcha.
determination.
Thanks.
Or the commission, total commission.
Understand.
Well, as far as the type of sign, the box sign, because I mean, we're kind of grandfathering, we do have some, so we're grandfathering that in. I would say we'd approve it conditionally with the small, and have the smaller sign, so that you wouldn't have to come back and forth.
Okay.
That's the way that I would do it this evening.
Thanks.
Right, so as long as you're not exceeding the current square footage.
Understand.
You guys are okay with me signing off on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have a motion that we do that?
As it relates to the menu board that you brought out, is it okay if we just
I think, yeah, if you
Yes.
submit that with the revised
Final
information.
drawing package, it'll have the sign, the new sign for the pylon sign, and then the LED upgrade or retrofit for the maintenance.
Yep.
Yes, thanks.
So is there a motion? Go. So I'm going to move that we conditionally approve the signage and the upgrades to the Arby's with the following conditions: that the sign, the pole sign, be the same size as the sign is today, and that you also present us with the
Menu.
upgrades to the menu board.
Got it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve the signage upgrades with the conditions provided. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Next is the concept and final plan for Shiny Shell. We have our Shiny Shell representative here.
Another chair there and pull
This
it
is
up.
S2200, excuse me, S220015. It's the Shiny Shell in Mount Airy. Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you want to do the staff report first, John?
Sure. Again, so this was brought to you as initially as a pre-concept sketch plan for just the concept, if you remember correctly. And this is coming back as a concept final at this point because of the minimum amount of addition to an existing building. Again, this is located at 1505 Ridgeside Drive in Mount Airy, Maryland. This was the existing old Capital One Bank building. The applicant is proposing to create a automated car wash, which would allow for a reuse of an existing property that's been vacant for over 5 years, I think, which is a great asset to the town. And again, the applicant is requesting approval for the concept final site plan for the old bank building, reworking the existing site with a small addition to the building. Of course, I'm not going to read the whole staff report.
Okay.
If you have any questions for me or the applicant, please go ahead.
I'll ask for questions from the members, commission members first.
Some questions?
Go ahead.
In the staff report, it states that the commission could require screening or landscaping relative to this project, but I believe the applicant has included an overlay for landscaping already.
Which page is it on?
There's a portion of it on 9. Some outline there of landscaping.
So sheet nine of 12, I believe, has much of the proposed landscaping.
correct.
That's correct? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And again, my only point is I believe you are including that in your concept plan.
Yeah.
Correct.
That is correct.
Yep.
The other question I had is concerning traffic. And please feel free in addressing this question to kind of give us a sense of the flow on that site, because you got a lot of things going on, I believe, is a fair statement, right?
Yeah.
You've got two access areas, one off each Ridgeville that we talked about earlier. You also have another access off of Ridgeside. So let's refer to those as the northern access and perhaps the western access. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So with regard to the northern access, just inside the access on your property or proposed property, there's going to be exits coming out of the automated tunnel, correct? And those cars are either going to decide to go right or left to a vacuum stall, or even possibly exit back out onto Edgeville, or even possibly go left around the building to exit on the west Ridgeside access.
That is correct.
Correct. Of course, you've got the cars that are turning in off of each East Ridgeville to begin the whole process and enter in as a patron, correct?
From either side, yeah. You could enter from the north.
From
or
either
the-
side,
or the
right?
west, yes.
Correct. And you've got a place that you call preparation area, where I believe patrons are given cloth and spray bottle to prep their car, and that's indicated over in that same general area?
No.
I think that's the area here, which is the kiosk, is what you're talking about. The prep and, I think the cloth and the fluids are at the vacuum stations.
That is correct. Maybe I'll do this. I'll give a quick overview, just generally of the business, and then we can dig in. I should have started with that. So I'm Brian Prince with Shiny Share Car Wash. We appreciate the time tonight. This is my associate, John Norman, with Pannoni Engineering. And we started this earlier this year with, I want to first thank your staff. They've been excellent to work with, particularly John and Barney.
Excuse me, can you pull the mic
Yeah,
closer?
just
Can you hear me?
a little closer.
Okay. Is it on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, not close enough. So yeah, thanks again. Staff has been great to work with. We've been through a thorough process over the last 6 months and gearing up for this meeting. This is a unique opportunity for us. We build and operate these express car washes, and what they are is a conveyorized automatic car wash. And when we identified this site, we saw it as a really unique opportunity to preserve an attractive building, but it was dark, that was vacant, and utilize it for what we think will be a great business in your town. And so started that discussion with staff about converting this existing building into this conveyorized automatic car wash. And so to be clear, because I've had some questions about it, we're not rebuilding this building, we're preserving the structure. And we see that as a really unique opportunity. The only thing we are doing in a material way as far as changing the site, like John mentioned, is we're adding about 24 feet to the building on the south side. And so how it will work is you look at the site plan, on that east side of the building, we're going to have 3 pay lanes that a car will pull into, go through a pay lane and pay gate to pay, whether you're just a one-off retail user or a member. Our business is both a membership model and for one-off retail users just want to wash their car whenever they like. And that's a big part of our business because it allows a mix of different types of traffic. Meaning we use what's called a license plate reader technology that has a camera that reads the license plate of a member, and the gate automatically opens to allow that member in. That's a real big advantage for us because it allows the traffic to move very evenly. About 60% of all the traffic ends up being members at the car wash. So a lot of the traffic won't be sitting in the pay lane, putting their credit card in or talking to a sales representative. And that allows the traffic to move very evenly. So one of the lanes will be dedicated purely for members, and the other 2, farther to the east, will have an option to pay with a credit card and a touch screen, And then as well as we'll have on the far east side, a sales kiosk with a sales representative to help members, or sorry, non-members sign up for a membership or just pay at that sales kiosk. Then the cars will enter, make a 180 turn in, so they'll enter the car wash tunnel, as John is showing there, on the south side and exit on the north side. This is a conveyorized system. It will take on average less than 3 minutes after entering the site to be through the car wash. So cars are washed fairly quickly. And then they'll have the option to leave or pull into one of the 20 stalls that has self-serve vacuums. And with those vacuum arches, we also provide free microfiber towels, spray, compressed air to spray off the dashboard, and so a lot of freebies, a lot of accessories to clean the interior of your car. We don't offer any detailing services. This is all self-serve after you've left, after you've exited the tunnel. Not every patron uses the vacuums every time. We found that on average, for every 3 times somebody comes, they use the vacuums twice. So, a little over 30 to 40%, depending on the site, will wash their car and just leave. They don't pull in to vacuum it out. And so that's kind of the general business model, and it's very successful. We're kind of known as kind of a premium brand. We offer a lot of extras, as they call it, compared to our competitors. We will also have a members lounge there next to the restroom facilities for members to come in and get. We offer free soda and coffee and drinks. Some people like to come and take 20, 30 minutes to wash out their car or clean their car, so we offer that members lounge as kind of a perk to the members. But I think at a high level, what I wanted to point out is that we're really not changing much. It's a really neat opportunity to the site's a little under 1.4 acres, and we're changing very little of it. The pervious versus impervious surfaces are really not changing much. We're utilizing those existing asphalt areas for the existing and proposed parking. And so that makes it streamlined for this staff level review at the township level as well as at the county level. So with that general overview, happy to answer your more specific questions about traffic.
Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful. And again, because we recently experienced some issues with another establishment on Ridgeside,
Yes.
and the traffic loading as a result of that, and this is a major intersection for East Ridgeville and the town. I believe, according to our code, we're supposed to conduct a traffic study in the adequate public facilities ordinance relative to the affected intersections and streets adjacent to or those designated by the commission. And so I believe in lieu of that, the traffic consultant for the town made a judgment based upon either previous studies, Barney, or more recent traffic studies, perhaps?
Well, I'll say the traffic consultant didn't make that judgment. That was the staff that made that judgment. But based on, we have recent traffic studies from Chick-fil-A, from the roundabout, a previous one from Southside Plaza, and then also the Maryland 27 corridor study. So we had 4 different ones that showed that, intersections along that road that gave us data that we could look at. We didn't see the benefit of adding another and knowing roughly the traffic that was coming in and out that they shared with us, that we said, we know that we could use another dedicated turn lane, and then the pedestrian crosswalks. So that's what we had decided, is that we should move forward with that rather than just giving us updated numbers that we kind of already have, just adding in their numbers. So that's the reasoning behind it.
Okay.
If I could shift over to the water allocation, because this is a car wash, and I believe according to the staff, it now is going to require 7,350 gallons per day total there's already an allocation for that property because of the previous enterprises there, I think, is that correct? And that the real addition that it's going to need is somewhere in the category of 5,000, Barney?
Yeah, we said, it was 50, just did the math, was it 5,900? It was 17 times 350.
And because the council approved the annual allocation already, or earlier this year, this fits into the pipeline development or the commercial category for, and it can be accommodated by our allocations?
Yes, we have adequate, it's a redevelopment project, so it falls under the category for redevelopment, which we have 7,100 available. So the 5,950, will have still a little over 1,000 in that category. But they're using up a good bit of that category at this time.
Shifting to wastewater, because there was a statement that you're going to be able to recycle that water demand up to about 85%.
That's what I want to know.
And I'm going to jump in and make one clarification on that. So we do use, and this is in most states not a state, or it's certainly not a federal requirement, to install a reclaim recycling system. We do it at all sites because we believe, one, it's the right thing to do. We're a very sustainable oriented business, but we also think that at a state level, there's regulation that will be coming, particularly in the West, because it is a heavy water user. The technology for these car washes has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. And so we install what is, to explain it simply, a multi-tank reclaim system that's below the finished grade. It's under the parking lot. And so if you've ever been through one of these conveyor tunnels, the water drains into a trench and then goes into a multi-tank system to separate the sediment, oil, dirt that comes off the car, and then is pumped back into another filtering system and back into the building and the pressurized system. A portion of that spills over and goes into your wastewater system. 85%, and I'm sorry if that was taken, that we have at certain sites achieved 85%. We usually will quote 70% as a realistic number. It's still dramatically better than it used to be. And relative to other ways that people wash cars, for example, if you're washing your car in the driveway with your hose, you're going to use, if it takes you 10 minutes, about 80 gallons. If you go to one of I know there's a few of them here in Mount Airy, what we call a self-serve car wash, where you pull into the bay and pull out the wand and wash the car, you're going to use anywhere from 40 to 50 gallons because it comes out quick. Here, the net usage with this reclaim recycling system is about 20 gallons a car. And so it certainly is a big water user, but by far the most water conscious, sustainable use or way to wash a car. Acknowledging that people that sign up end up usually washing their car more often than they would if they were washing in the driveway. So it's a very expensive system, but allows us to save money on the culinary water usage and also reduce the water we're using in your town.
No, that's good information. Now let's talk about the 30% that enters the sanitary sewer system.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's focus on that. Our state MDE is keen on these kinds of establishments having that wastewater enter with TPH and VOCs. These are basically grease and oil and volatile compounds, VOCs, et cetera. So just on that part that's gonna go into our water treatment facility, can you talk to us about any of those compounds, pre-treatment, any of that kind of effluent in the byproduct of the car wash?
Yeah, so first off, all the soaps and chemicals that are used are non-toxic, non-hazardous. We work with a national supplier to ensure that we're using products that can be discharged directly into a wastewater, stormwater facility. In that reclaim system, it separates, that you've got the grease trap and then a multi-tank system that separates the sediment and the dirt and the oil and pumps the water at a higher level in that tank back into the system in the building. Then depending on the usage, depending on the volume of cars, we contract with a company that will come out with a vac truck and clean out those tanks every quarter, biannually, depending on how many cars we're washing.
Right, and that would be considered a solid waste disposal?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess fair to say, not to dwell on this, there is permitting that would require the state to allow all of the 30% effluent to go. I think our treatment facility has to issue a certification for accepting that as a part of our process to treat that. Now, there's also stormwater, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so is the stormwater drain, or is it ground surface drain?
I'll let John. It's a separate system.
Yeah, it's a completely separate system. All of the water that's coming, out inside the building is contained within the building, and then therefore goes in these treatment tanks. But everything else on the site drains to a stormwater management system.
Do you have existing locations that we could contact those communities and we could get verification that indeed this is what they have seen in the operation?
We do, yeah. And I'm happy to provide that to John. We have 2 locations in Pennsylvania.
All right, super.
That you could
Appreciate that.
contact.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do, Madam Chair.
Sorry, really quick, just to add on to the stormwater. So these are, as shown on the plans, above-grade stormwater management facilities. We're currently in the process with Carroll County in review and approval of those facilities, and have made quite a bit of progress. We think we're close to getting approval from Carroll County on that design.
Did you have any questions, Leslie? Yeah. I thought you were getting ready to raise your hand for Roxanne's question, but Madam Chair, I do have several questions here. On the site plan here, I did see at least one handicap spot for the vacuum up by the building. It looks kind of small to me, or at least on the drawing. I just thinking if someone with a walker or wheelchair or something else, a handicapped person might need some more room walking around the spot to vacuum, because the ones that I've seen up in Frederick that have the similar models, the handicap spots seem to be in the center.
Carl, I think this is a van accessible. I think this is an accessible area right here.
Oh, okay.
Beside there.
With the hatch mark.
I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
It is a van accessible space.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that whole
So you
parking
have
spot
16
there.
feet across completely.
Okay. Well,
Parking space.
that's fine. I'm looking at the plans. There's kind of a lot on the plans that covering up other
Right.
things. Yeah, so I'm asking the questions.
It does kind of get lost in scale a little bit there.
Yeah. Okay, I noticed that you said the proposed 3 vacuum stalls on the lower corner are for the employees. But if those, I'm concerned that if you, because what I've realized also at the other similar locations like this, is that people do come in and use the vacuums and don't wash the cars. So I'm concerned that if, with every parking space here to be a vacuum, if they're all taken, your employees might not have places to park, come in, and things of that nature. So I'm not sure if you can take away some of the vacuum, locate those 3 lower vacuum locations and just make them employee parking, or parking for people that need to go into the office for some reason to talk to your employees about something. I'm not sure if that's something that needs to be considered or not. Hours of operation?
Hours of operation will be from 8 to 6. Well, sorry, during the week, 8 to 7, and then on the weekends, 8 to 6.
Okay, I think I asked that during the preliminary. I just wanted to make sure. I think some of the traffic questions or concerns I had were talked about by Ralph, and your presentation, but I'll bring them up again. This, what I call the toll lanes, the entry lanes where you take the money. What's the stacking ability how many cars do you think can be stacked into that, into those lanes? Because I'll go with Ralph on the concerns with the traffic, is mainly say if you're backed up around into the vacuums, say, winter salty conditions, everybody's decided to get their car washed. I'm concerned with, people backing up onto Ridgeville if they can't get in. It's just the on-site flow of traffic is concerning me. So that's why I'm kind of wondering what's the stacking ability of the toll lanes. What I call the toll lane,
Yeah,
pay lanes.
before the pay gates, those 3 pay lanes will easily accommodate 18 to 20 cars. So we haven't designed that to account for, or to suggest that we'll have that much traffic. I wish we would. We just won't. It won't be that busy. We're
Okay.
doing it because we have it's just a big site. I mean, we're taking the existing site and utilizing it. So I'll say 350 days a year, there won't be a car even close to stacking outside of where those arrows are.
Okay.
I mean, that's one of my favorite parts about this site is you'll never have cars stacking out towards the exit of the tunnel because it is so large.
Okay.
We could have 2 pay lanes and be just fine. But because we had so much impervious surface to work with, we want to utilize that, and that's certainly a strength of this site. So I'm very confident to say we will never have, even on those spring days with a bunch of salt on the cars, those peak Saturdays, there will not be cars stacking out towards Ridgeville Boulevard, towards that exit.
You would hope so, but for
that would be a great problem to have. I just don't think that's going to happen. And a big part of the reason that is because we're washing the cars so quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.5 to 3 minutes, you said?
After 3 minutes, but keep in mind, there's multiple cars in the tunnel
How many cars can fit in the tunnel at once?
anywhere from 3 to 4.
Okay, so that's on that too.
So we're processing at a quick rate, and that allows that stacking and the pay lanes to move quite briskly, along with the mix of members that are going through that pay lane and automatically going in. So it keeps the traffic moving quite briskly.
One other question, two other questions here now I'm thinking. You earlier said it'd be 3 minutes once you on site for the wash to get done. Is that once you enter the building, I take it?
Say that one more time. You say the employees?
No, but you indicated in your presentation that it would take approximately 3 minutes to wash a car.
Yeah.
Is that once you enter into the tunnel?
I'd say that's after you go through the pay gate.
Okay. All right. So I'm just trying to be moving quickly. That question. One other, the depth, it looks like if I'm reading the plans right, the depth of the vacuum lanes is approximately 20 feet deep, and you have vehicles running through there, basically a two-lane road to get into it. Is that depth deep enough for we have a lot of large trucks and SUVs here and things of that. I'm concerned particularly that if you get bunch of Chevy Suburbans or full-size trucks in the vacuum lanes, that 24 foot's going to be narrowed down, and it could be a bottleneck for people.
What is your standard, John? Is it 18?
It's 20 feet deep is our standard.
Is the standard?
The standard. I'm just wondering.
No, I think we've got a little over 24 feet in between the edge of each stall, and then they're about 13 feet wide, which is much, much wider than a standard stall. And we do that so when people are opening the doors to vacuum out the Cheerios, they're not banging the doors. But no, for a 20-foot deep stall will accommodate the big F-350.
Okay.
That is
the dual cab and everything. Okay,
It's usually the width that's an issue, and we've reduced the number of existing stalls on site that are there today because they're so much bigger. We've made them, much more wide.
No, I think I had some landscape questions, but it appears that Ralph covered them. The plans do indicate what will be planted where. I'm just trying to think, there are some existing trees. It looks like you will be trying to save some of the existing trees on site if possible.
If possible, correct,
Okay.
yes.
but everything else looks like it was existing and stuff. That's it, Madam Chair, thank you.
So he asked about the parking for the employees. Where are they going to be parking?
So we'll have, so on the south, I'll call it southwest side,
Right
west
here?
of the building, correct.
Okay,
We'll have signage there that says reserved for employees.
okay.
Because it's, I mean, the reason this is such a superior model is we don't do the detailing, so we don't have the 20 teenagers
Right.
on site trying to clean out all the cars. And so on any given day, we'll have 3 to 5 employees.
Okay.
One in the office, one guiding cars into the tunnel, and then one that just monitors the parking lot. You know, helps patrons, restacks towels, cleaner, helps folks. We also install these big mat washers so that you can take your dirty mat out and just run it through the machine and it cleans it off really nicely. And some patrons need help with those, and so that employee's helping with that. And so we don't have 10 employees. I mean, at max, we'll have 3 to 4. We really, for the vast majority of the year, it's clearly, or it's a seasonal business, as you can imagine. You know, there's busier times of year than others. We really don't, absolutely need the 20 stalls. Most of the time, those won't be fully utilized, but there will be a few times a year where those 3 or 4 really busy Saturdays where that will be very, very helpful. It's easier just for us to put in those vacuum arches on all of them, so that if we have the 2 employees there, or it's a minimal cost to put the vacuums in at those stalls and then keep them reserved for the employees.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have two points I'd like to bring up. I wanted to let you know that they did add in a retaining wall, or not a retaining wall, but a masonry wall that'll encompass these areas here to eliminate excess vacuum noise going on to adjoining property owners. They're also encasing the vacuum cleaner motors over here with surrounds so that you don't see them from the road. And one of the questions I had for you, Brian, was I did receive one email from a gentleman that I think is outside of town, but he was concerned about would this accommodate a dually truck? Your
It
system?
will.
It will
That's
take a
always
dually
the
truck.
question.
Okay.
Will it accommodate a dually? It will, because we install, if you've ever been through one of these, the older technology is that you pull in and there's that camberized gate that pulls the car on, and you have to line the tire up perfectly. Some people like that, certain patrons really don't like that because they don't hit it perfectly.
Right.
The new system that we're gonna install, I call it the magic carpet. And so there's not a gate that's above the grade. You just pull on, it's like when you're at the airport and you just walk onto that big, the sliding conveyor. And that allows the reason we invest in it is it just makes it for a better, easier experience for the customer. They can just pull right on, and if they're not aligned perfectly, it's totally okay. In addition, it'll accommodate a wider tire. So yes, a dually will fit.
Okay.
Sorry, Madam Chair, 2 more questions, and I'll promise this will be the last from me. The screen wall, is it going to be like a block wall around the vacuums, John, do you know? Or is it just going to be fencing, or what?
That's a great question. So we are proposing like a CMU split face block that has a color that mirrors the red brick of the building.
Okay.
So that it complements, from a streetscape, ties in with the
Building.
existing architecture and color and
Gotcha.
theme. So that not only along the south side where the employee parking will be, but also the dumpster enclosure, et cetera, will have that red split face CMU block.
Then the vacuum lines, I think I know the answer, but are they going to be buried or above ground, like stalls and stuff? I think the original drawing you showed a couple months ago indicated that they were above ground.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, they're over top of the
That's fine.
the stalls.
Okay, and what's the height of those?
Ooh,
Somebody pulled a truck, and when somebody asked about a dually truck, we do get trucks that are jacked up too, so,
they'll be wide enough, it'll be wide enough, those arches won't be hit.
okay.
So even if you've got a really big truck,
Okay,
the arches will be wide enough. You know, they'll be separated far enough that 13 feet, they're not going to hit a big
but how about the height,
side mirror.
the height of the
Yeah, let me
pulling into the thing? Just because the gentleman said the dually, so that probably means there's going to be some customers that have the trucks lifted, raised. I'm not sure what would the height of the wash be, or the tunnel? Would that be able to, I mean, it doesn't, since someone asked about dualies, I'm just wondering what the height of the tunnel would be. I mean, it's not important, I'm just wondering.
Give me 1 second, I'm going to find that.
For some reason, my elevations are not bringing up the whole elevation, so I apologize.
Yeah.
The height's not called out on the elevations, but they're certainly shown.
Maybe we should provide a bar, to let you know that you have X amount of clearance so that you don't go through, you could bypass it if necessary.
So it was a two-part question. So the vacuum arch structure that's in the parking lot hits at about 11 feet 9 inches.
That should take care of most.
So it's high.
Okay.
And those don't bend in. They stay parallel with those parking stripes.
Okay.
So they're not coming in. They wouldn't hit
Okay.
the truck.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'll look up the height of the entrance of the tunnel.
That's fine, that's fine, thank you. I didn't mean to cause all this.
No, it's a great quiz. I liked it.
Well, they came from Utah, so it's like one from
Yeah,
Columbia,
I mean,
one from
might as well
Utah, so I gotta
give it-
ask the questions.
Let's make it exciting here.
So Brian, while you're looking that up, do the vacuum stations, are they partially covered, like with the awning or something like that? I've seen.
Yeah, some do. Here we will not. We won't have them covered. We
Awning's
will
over.
provide visibility. So no, they will not.
Okay, so it would just be a pole with the 3 cleaners, the clean and dirty rags, and the vacuums on either
Yeah, so there'll be it's a great question. Arch structure, and on the back or the base of that pole, we have these metal baskets and holders for the general cleaner, the glass cleaner, the clean and used towel baskets that are cleaned out hourly to keep those going.
I'm sorry, in trash cans, also at the back.
Yeah, sorry, that as well. So on that same base pole, there'll be a garbage can.
Are you thinking maybe one recycling, one general trash, or are you just going with one?
We do have recycling bins on site. There won't be a recycling and a general on each pole, but there is a place for folks that do have plastic bottle they want to recycle on site next to the building. So the clear height is 16 feet, the entrance of the tunnel.
Okay.
So
It's tall.
Okay.
So if you can visualize that, the old bank building, there's 4 kind of colonial pillars out front. We're going to have to remove the interior 2, but the outer 2 pillars will stay.
Okay.
Try to preserve that architectural theme.
No, I mean, the reuse of the building is a great idea. It's great to have a business finally coming there. It will no longer be vacant. So I'm good. I just want to make sure, that everything, most of the questions are answered
No, I appreciate it.
on it.
Okay, so we have time for public. Please state your name and whether you are a town resident or not.
Sure. Gary Fry, I'm a county resident. So the site improvements, I want to throw this out here, 'cause I think something's missing or kind of, you got the PED signals going in, crosswalks, and you're adding a right turn lane? Right? Was I seeing that right, correct?
Yes.
So is anything being done on the programming for the signal? Is it going to be alternating, or is it still people coming out of Walmart, people coming up from McDonald's, same time? Right, it would be an opportunity to have a dedicated right turn signal for other movements, and
It's really up to State Highway. Ultimately, it's their light. So I would suspect that, yes, we would probably get a four-way, or, we'd get separate movements, hopefully. But ultimately, I'll defer to Barney, but I think it's ultimately up to the State Highway because it is their light.
I was going to defer to these gentlemen.
I wish I said the lights.
About it.
If I said the lights, I'd just direct all the traffic into the car wash.
well, no, I mean, the dedicated right signal puts it right into you, so I'm on the same page with you. It's not called out. I think it should be conditioned upon this site plan that it's done. Because it's a challenging situation because both sides get green at the same time.
Correct. But hopefully the State Highway will do what we want. If they don't want to do what we want, then we're stuck. I mean, they make that part, like Barney said, is State Highway, so they will determine the light.
Trying to figure out how to put this correctly. As a developer, I would expect that they propose it. The absence of a traffic study kind of makes this a little bit more challenging because it's not being proposed with the data to back it up. So is State Highway going to be contacted as a part of this site plan? Like that hasn't even, I apologize, I didn't read the staff report to know how that played out.
And I don't know what, I mean, like Barney said, we utilize the recent traffic impact studies that have been performed along with our traffic, our projected traffic counts, and the mitigating, or the improvements that were proposed was the full decel right turn on Ridgeside Drive.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think all of this just reiterates my initial concern in that, would it hurt to do a traffic study because this is such a key, as the gentleman points out, this is a key intersection. We want to get it right.
So to just address this, we do have an outstanding comment from engineering to these gentlemen about providing signalization, new sequences that would go into that traffic signal. So it's something that just hasn't been addressed yet, but that's one of the outstanding, agency comments to be addressed.
Okay.
But that is a comment that we've asked for. We do want the signalization. I can't say that they're going to be able to get a dedicated right turn signal for Walmart, because I know today they have troubles even still today with the extra traffic coming up from the other direction. So, but we're trying to get that clarified. But that is an outstanding comment that still needs to be addressed.
Would it be possible at the time that all this is happening, that they cut that hill down? So, because when you come up, you know what I'm saying?
You're talking about on the RB side?
Yes.
It's not a reasonable thing to ask them.
No, not for them, but I mean,
We would have to we'd have to budget for that if.
okay,
we do that, yeah.
all right.
So,
No, it can be.
this is a question for Barney Rocks, Madam Chair. You said they have the outstanding request for traffic signalization. Would they be contacting State Highway, or would we contact them on their behalf?
No, they're contacting them.
Well, we've asked them to contact them.
Okay.
And talk to them about.
Signalization, and then State Highway will do whatever they want to do.
Again, it's going to be, yes.
State highway
We're
call.
going to have to defer to State Highway
Gotcha.
eventually, but yes.
Okay.
That still needs to happen. And on the drawing, we've asked for that timing, the timings to be put on there.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Mayor Hushhour here. Did this go before Streets and Roads Commission? Do you know? If it didn't, it's okay. I'm just asking.
So I think generally the Streets and Roads Commission liaison gets a copy of the site plan. I mean, that's our norm. And then if they want to bring it up at their commission.
Okay. All right. In regard to all this, I'll bring it to the Streets and Roads Commission and let them take a look at that intersection, and perhaps they can be a driving force on contacting State Highway and working with the staff on it. So, thanks.
And it also seems to me, I don't know, because I'm not the traffic professional, but, so I'm gonna, we have now at Chick-fil-A that they have, it says, a right turn only when they come out. Well, some of them still go left, so I would think that we would be able to allow them to go right and left, and that's going to eliminate some of the backup when you come up the hill, especially when we get the roundabout, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if it says they have to, I think it's, if you
No,
want to
it says right turn only. It does, but they
doesn't say
go,
just at
but
Carroll
some of them go
27.
left.
Okay.
I mean, I go left too, because I don't want to go up the hill to that traffic. I'll just go down and around, so. But it would make sense to say right or left, but, have the arrow go both ways on the pavement so they know they can go right or left. But that'll happen after the
Yeah, the
roundabout.
idea for that sign was until the circle's that.
Okay, all right,
Then
fine.
that sign could be removed.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, any other questions? Let's go into the other adequate facilities. We don't have to worry about, we don't have to, we've done the water, we've done the sewer. We don't have to worry about the schools because it's not applicable. We've talked about the road control. The next subject is the fire and rescue services, which we have adequate, but we have our representative from the fire department here. Do you want to talk on anything else, Doug, about this? Okay. Good answer. As far as the police services we have here, says they're approaching inadequate, but they are saying that means that the project can move forward while the police department moves to be fully staffed. And parks and open space is not applicable to this project at this time. And then we have the recommendation from the staff. At this point, does the commission feel they can make a motion to approve what we have here with the conditions that we have? We all know that the conditions of the town and county agency comments have to be addressed before submittal for the Mylar drawings and the signatures. One of those conditions, obviously, is the signaling that you have. The stormwater management is the other one. We don't necessarily all the time name them. We just make, are there any others, Barney? That the stormwater, the signaling, were there any other comments that they needed to comment on? Act on?
I'm looking at John
Yeah,
also.
I
don't
don't
know.
think there's any other outstanding comments. And again, I would go through the whole file prior to allowing them to submit my letters. Again, I don't know if you want to go back and look at the signage at all that they're proposing before we move forward at all.
Well, since we got black and white drawings here, can someone, I saw that the colors are there, so.
Well, that would be a condition we put down there.
So again, currently, we were allowing them to utilize the current box sign as it is on site, but they are only going to be illuminating one side still.
Correct.
The side facing north, which would be southbound 27 towards the Ridgeville intersection at 27, and not towards Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
They're also proposing signage on the buildings. Again, I did see a plan that showed, now look, there's the elevations are full now. Anyway, at one point, I did see a plan where they had a large car wash on the side of the building, which I don't think they're proposing now, which is good. But again, this would have the Shiny Shell name on the side. This is on, I thought on both sides, but it looks like it's only on the east side of the building currently. So as you're coming up 27, you would see it as you turn right onto Ridgeville.
John, one question on the signage here. On the building sign,
Uh-huh.
are they going to be lighted or just,
Yes.
Sure, they'll be illuminated.
okay, illuminated? Okay, I'll just ask him.
So just, and the signage you see here, we designed it around your code. As you know, there's square footage is based on the size of the building, so it's all, I think that's, the original had the car wash on that one side. We had to take it off to meet the
Right,
maximum square footage.
which is good.
You're aware of the lighting code in the town, the color, the 3,000 Kelvin
Yes.
light and the white LEDs?
We
and
have
stuff?
talked about
Okay.
that.
Right. That's for the site lighting
Okay.
and the building mounted marsh lighting.
Could you put the elevation back up again, showing where you've now changed this? Thank you.
Now changed. Again, the one plan had it with a large car wash sign over here, as Brian was stating. They removed that because they were exceeding the total square footage allowed.
Right.
And what they're proposing currently would meet the code.
So there's signage on the east side and then on the north side at the exit of the tunnel. That's it.
Is it gonna say shiny shell?
Yep, right up
Yes.
there.
Okay, I just see shiny, so.
It's a shiny shell. The shell is in a different color.
We've submitted a color rendering, I'm not sure.
Okay.
We can make sure that's sent out.
Okay, I get it.
It's a two-tone, it's the orange and blue color
Okay,
tones.
all right.
But I think I just heard you say there is a sign at the exit, if you can raise it up a bit. There, at the exit there, that right side, north elevation, there is going to be a sign there?
Yes, yeah, and we submitted a signage plan, I'm not sure where it ended up.
I don't know if I received that yet. Maybe I did, but this is what I had on file. I apologize.
I can resend it. I mean, I will say that we did go through the process of designing it to the code. And so I know what we've submitted meets the maximum square footage of signage that's allowed. And the two changes we had to make was on that east side, we had to take off car wash. And then on the existing pylon sign, I'll call it, only one sign can be lit. Which is totally okay because the south side faces trees, so it's not really usable.
Hey, John, sorry, it's on page 12 of 12. It's on the last, for the north entrance, if it's still valid. Well, it also, it's got the elevation, and the page 12 of 12 is the signage. Yeah.
And the one that's in the packet is not what they're proposing.
Okay, it's not,
That's
okay.
what I'm saying. What's on the screen currently, where it says car wash, is not going to be there.
Gotcha.
Right, so car wash is coming off and shiny shell, and the symbol for shiny shell is going on the exit.
On the proposed north elevation, still might have the shell plus the shiny shell above with the car wash lettering there. I'm not sure, Brian, I have to defer to you.
You know, and this is a data one because it has the car wash on the eastern side. What I can do is, I mean, I don't have this is not the current one. We do have a current one that I know complies with the total square footage. Happy to have that be a condition of approval. The staff reviews that again.
There you go.
It just has shiny shell car wash at that north side, the shiny shell on the east side, and that is it.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Do I hear a motion for this?
Madam Chair, if I can, regarding concern, I would prefer if we had some more information regarding the entire water treatment, both the recycled and the effluent entering both into our sanitary sewer and going to our treatment facility, and the stormwater runoff handling that may come off the asphalt parking lot into some either catch basin, riprap, or whatever, if that's possible. Thank you.
So that'll be, the stormwater facility is shown in these civil plans. The wastewater coming out of the building will be part of the building packet submittal. So the reclaim system and the spec for that is part of the packet that's submitted for the building permit. So happy to,
Carroll County reviews for that, for the town.
Right,
It's not
okay.
the town reviewing for that.
Right.
So anything that's inside the building is a process, and that's part of the building permit, so not part of the site plan.
Right, and we already have that saying that the town and county agency comments have to be addressed before they get the permit. We can put that on there as well.
Again, like you're saying, so the town and county comments here is referring to the site development plan, not the
Right.
building permit.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, we should put that.
That would come after the Mylars are finished.
So we don't need to mention the permit, the building permit.
I wouldn't.
Okay, all right,
No.
okay.
But to Ralph's concerns, like you're saying, the stormwater management, again, they're working right now with getting final stormwater management approval for this plan that's being submitted. Once that's approved through Carroll County, then when they submit their building permit, as long as it complements exactly what's on the plan here, they'll approve that plan. Again, I understand your concerns with what's going in their stormwater or wastewater treatment plant. I can't talk to that. They might be able to give additional information related to that. But again, anything that's the stormwater management is being handled on site, outside of the building. There's a containment area on the lot right now. This is a huge underground facility, right, Brian? Is it still being utilized then?
Yes.
Right, so all their stormwater management, that's what these lines are here, are going and capturing. Here's a bioretention facility here. All that stormwater management that's on site goes to this treatment facility here prior to even being discharged across Ridgeville Boulevard into a stormwater management easement that goes down along 27, I think. But again, ultimately, I don't review for stormwater management.
Yeah, and again, if I could just add, because I know you're going to offer underbody washes, correct?
Yes.
As a part of your menu of services. And so in that regard, I voiced these concerns about that kind of runoff, oil, grease, underbody kind of washes, particularly during the winter. That's a popular item, I'm sure you know.
It is.
So in handling that is where I'm coming from as far as any things that then come out of that kind of wash.
It's a great question. So yeah, to separate the two, we are showing the surface stormwater management system. This is what you see on the plans. That's going through the Carroll County review. As it relates to the sediment and oil and grease that comes off the car and goes into that reclaim and capture system, that is typically part of the architectural engineering MEP plan set that's submitted for a building permit. Happy to provide the detail for the town's information if you'd like it. But that's usually, sounds like that's going to be submitted to the county for a building permit.
And again, it's typically not part of this approval process. But again, it's still reviewed and approved through Carroll County and MDE through their review process as part of the building permit.
Ralph, if it helps, I can try to gather some of that information, share it with you after.
I'm happy to send it to you, Barney.
That'd be fantastic. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think possibly another condition we might stipulate is that Streets and Roads Commission has a chance to review this plan and give us their feedback, voice any concerns they may have.
So does anyone,
I can present that to them tomorrow night because I think I'm here.
awesome, thank you.
Live streaming their
Okay,
meeting. So
good.
I will take the plan in front of them as well.
So do I hear a motion for approval of the site plan?
You can do it since you just added that.
Yeah.
All right, then I would move to accept staff recommendation that Planning Commission approves the site plan amendment for Shiny Shell LLC located at 402 East Ridgeville Boulevard. And the following conditions of approval need to be met before a building permit is issued. Number one, all town and county agency comments shall be addressed before the submittal of the Mylar drawings for circulation and signature. And let's see, also that they resubmit a signage plan and that Streets and Roads Commission has a chance to review the submitted plan.
Is there a second to this?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the staff recommendation for the site plan amendment for Shiny Shell with the following conditions of approval need to be met before the building permit be issued. Number one, all town and county agency comments shall be addressed before the submittal of the Mylar drawings for circulation and signature. Number two, resubmit the signage plan. And number three, a review by the Streets and Roads Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Get some update after the Streets and Roads meeting tomorrow night.
exactly.
See if they have any questions or concerns.
Appreciate it. To work with you.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
And the dually truck gentleman thanks you.
right.
Send in my info.
I'll give him the heads up.
Okay. The next introduction and possible approval is for S-21-0015. It's the Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision Phase 2, the second amended Lot A for final plan for the Twin Arch mini storage expansion. John, do you want to,
Okay. So again, this is a final site development plan for approval in front of the Planning Commission. The application is asking for the approval of the final site development plan to create multiple buildings for mini storage buildings on Lot 7, which should be 7, just Lot 7, not 7A. Initially, we had an amended site plan. That is horrible. You can't even read that. But anyway. Yeah, so anyway, it should be Lot 7, not 7A.
Okay.
We did have an amended site plan on this project previously that the applicant and the engineer removed from our review. Again, this is Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision located on Century Drive at the intersection of Backacre Circle and Century Drive. This is zoned industrial. It's a flex use. It is in the water and sewer existing final plan. Again, the parcel is 4.69 acres, located at the Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision, Phase 2. And this is the last parcel with regards to the current Twin Arch self-storage facility on Backacres and Century Drive. What do you got?
thank you. Excuse me. So we'll hear from the engineer.
Ron Thompson, Van Mar Associates. With me tonight is Rob Blackard and Michelle Blackard. They're hiding in the back corner there. This plan is essentially the same as what you saw at the concept site plan. As you are aware, that I've expressed time and again, that we typically have to take stormwater management almost to 80% design in order to get concept plan approval from Carroll County. So really, the difference is going in the additional details that are required to put the plan, to finalize the plan, particularly with stormwater management, storm drains, and so forth. Again, as John mentioned, it does finish out the site for self-storage there.
Ron, have those conditions changed over the years as they have added to the property?
Conditions,
Stormwater management requirements, and so forth?
let's say that initially I could do a concept stormwater management design and it was a concept. here are the computations, okay, it looks good, move forward into final design. Now, you're essentially moving into final design at this point in time, when you do concept design. It's just the way they do it, and got tired of fighting it. Our stormwater management for it is treatment of 2 structures on the entryway, and then a large sand filter out front that has landscaping on it. So, total square footage is 46,772 square feet. Have only water being brought up, connected into the buildings for sprinkler systems. No sanitary because, again, the office is in a previous section of the self-storage development, and we do not have bathrooms in this section. Here to answer any questions you have and look forward, I know the Blackards look forward to your approval. It's been a long process for them. They would like to get moving forward.
I'll just get in line now, Madam Chair, once the commission's done. Can't let Ron get off easy tonight.
Are there any other questions? Are there any questions from the commission members?
Is there any significant difference in the design or the construction of this last piece compared to the other portions of it?
The only difference is what the commission asked at the concept plan stage, is that the final building next to Century Boulevard have a stone skin on it, so that it did not look like a metal building, the rest of it. So, and they have agreed to do that, and that's shown in our architectural elevations.
That'd be building elevation, oh my God.
Building 7.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat that, where the stone, was the stone structure supposed to be facing Century Boulevard? Because that's building 6.
No, it's building 7.
It's the long building number 6, I'm sorry. Number 6.
Yeah, because building 7 here's got the stone, not number 6. That's what I was trying to, not that's.
It will be the long building along Century Drive, not Century Boulevard, Century Drive.
Okay, that's building 6, and okay.
Okay, Carl.
That wasn't one of my questions, Rob. Hey, hold on, let me, on the coming out, it might be a moot point, but coming out onto Century Boulevard Drive, will there be some sort of stop sign coming out of that entrance? Because that's one of the biggest complaints that I hear from people now is the joint, even though there's a stop sign, it's up at the one by Health Unlimited, people don't stop at, but it's directly across from the back acre. It doesn't look like there's a.
At this time, we haven't proposed a stop sign. They aren't, I mean, it's like one vehicle.
Yeah.
You come out, you look, make sure you're not going to hit anybody as you're coming out. As a matter of fact, the peak hour trips are only 9.
Yeah.
So it's.
I'm just getting it out there, because people will bring it up. One other thing on the lighting, I know the lights in the building say 10, but I think the wording next to the lights on the page that has the lighting diagram says 20. So is it 10 foot high on the side? I know the lights back there currently are kind of, the white LEDs are kind of bright on the buildings. I want to try and limit as much overflow, light pollution as we can.
The building heights are 12 feet, so it's going to be 10-foot signs.
Okay.
Lighting.
I just noticed that, I picked that up on, I think, on the lighting diagram, whichever page that is, sir.
10 of 12.
What was that?
10 of 12.
10 or 12, let me just make sure I read it right at 10 o'clock at night. 10,
It's like building 6 doesn't have any lights facing Century
Right,
Drive or
yeah.
Backacre Circle.
that's fine, okay. As long as it's the yellow, that
3,000
meet
Kelvin.
code. And then I take it no signage facing Century on Building 6 either, just a stone?
Correct.
Okay. Now, they maintain the existing sites wonderfully and impeccably, so I'm not doubting that they won't be maintained at all. They look pretty over there. So I just want to make sure. Nope, that's it, Roxanne. Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other questions? Any questions from the public?
Madam Chair, I had a quick question.
Sure.
To Ron or to the owners, with that short section of dead end, let me call it that extends on to the very end of Century, and the access into this new area, is it 24/7 or is it a limited operation? It's 24/7, right? Correct. And again, I'm just curious more than anything, is there a risk of large truck parking and positioning in that dead end section for any kind of, you haven't experienced any of that? Gotcha.
We have, people come in with tractor trailers and stuff left and right, and
Right.
they usually have to meet the customer there and things like that. So
Beautiful.
we've already,
Thank you.
had that issue as well.
Yeah, I was just worried about a large truck using that dead end as a convenient place to kind of camp out, so thank you.
Okay, any other questions, concerns?
Sorry, Madam Chair, sorry, Brian, do you have? No,
Would you like to go first?
No, you can, sir.
Well, why don't you
Commission
do
has
that
fair.
first, Please.
Mr. Thompson, my only question is, and just an amendment to the plan, is that the
Can you
stone
pull your
face-
mic a little closer to you? Thank you.
is that the stone fascia paneling goes on Building 6 as opposed to Building 7, and here it has Building 7 still listed as the stone.
I need to,
Just update
in the
that,
final
that's-
Mylar, double check.
That's all I have.
Just, Ron, two more questions, probably, maybe just one. On the elevation, are the buildings going to be stacked above one another, or are they all going to be level? Like going with the hill elevation?
There'll be some grade difference. I've given elevations on sheet 6.
Okay.
Where we try to hold, really, the elevation stacking goes from, on the first two buildings, goes from the south to the north. They have grade differences.
Yeah.
You can see the floor elevation 734 in the first building, and there's 734 in the second building.
Hold on.
And then it bumps up a foot in the final building.
Is these the numbers on page
Those are
3,
the-
you mean? That's got 734? Okay.
Those are floor elevations.
Okay, all righty,
So you can see they're fairly consistent.
all right. And as to feed on Ralph's question, it doesn't look like the area is large enough for parking of trucks or RVs or anything. It's just mainly a storage, self-storage facility.
Inside storage.
Okay. That's it, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, at this time, is there a motion to recommend approval? Seeing none, I'll do it. I move that we take the staff recommendations approval of the final site development plan for Lot 7 of the Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision Phase 2, subject to all the following conditions of approval. All town and county agency comments shall be addressed before the submittal of the Mylar drawings for circulation and signature. Is there a second on this motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of the final site plan development for Lot 7. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Plan's approved, thank you. Moving on. For introduction and discussion and recommendation to the town council, we have a text amendment of the ordinance 2022-29. This is a proposed text amendment to add a residential component to the industrial zone in certain circumstances. Let me get this one out. Tom, would you like to go over this ordinance for us, please?
Yeah, so this This is an application that Vanmar made on behalf of.
Can you pull the mic just a little bit closer to you?
I'll try with this contraption.
There you go, that should be okay.
Thank you.
Essentially, this is a text amendment applied for by Vanmar on behalf of the developer of, was it lot 15?
15.
15, of the Twin Arch Business Park. You'll recall this is the one where there was a pre-existing residential use. I won't get into all the complications of that, but the point being that the request now is to have a text amendment approved whereby, under the circumstances, I guess, that existed as respects Lot 15, should they reproduce themselves somewhere else, and there as well, that a residential use would be able to continue. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Thompson for any further explanation.
Thank you. The issue, and this is probably a one-off within the town, quite frankly, when you look at the size of lot development versus any other industrial lot. But you may recall at the time of the site plan approval, there was an issue of there is a employee who lives there with his family, his children, are in the Mount Airy Public School System, doing very well. They not only work for King Sports, but they maintain the property. And if you've noticed, the property is mowed regularly and quite cleaned up. They have tried to find housing in the town of Mount Airy. It doesn't exist for a certain, for income level. And what they're asking is to allow this building to remain a residential structure until such time as it's replaced with what would be a warehouse, rather than uprooting the family and telling them, leave town and go find someplace to live. It's that simple. And I think the commission, planning commission, when we talked about it, said, well, go back and propose a solution back. And this is the solution that's being proposed back to you.
Okay. Comments, questions? Leslie?
I'm in favor of approving it.
Okay.
Okay.
I remember everything about it.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Okay, if everyone else done. Ron, I get the reasons and I understand the reasoning for this. I'm just concerned, and I'm not trying, I get the reason, I don't want to uproot, but I'm concerned that we're setting a precedent with this, and we do have other internal ways of taking care of this without doing a text amendment. So I can't say I'm in favor one way or the other for this, but if it does move forward, I would like to see it changed in somehow, whereas you just indicated that once the existing residents of the structure find housing, this becomes no longer valid text amendment. So almost like a sunset written into it is my favor if the commission moves forward with this. But there are other ways a town can handle without having a text amendment to this.
What are the
What do you
other
think?
ways?
Yeah.
I've talked to what's called selective enforcement. We can choose not to look the other way, but just not to say, okay, these people need to look for it. As long as you show a good faith effort that you're trying to look at it, we're not going to kick you off the property. And I don't think the mayor or anybody else, not speaking for the mayor, but I don't think anybody on the town wants to make a family homeless, and I get it. But I just don't want this to be okay, this family moves out, another employee moves in with the family, and just ongoing and ongoing and ongoing, and 20 years later, the site gets developed, or the house gets torn down. Because remember, industrial sites are not allowed to have residential people, a residential component. So we're again rewriting the law for one person, one site. It's gotten us into trouble before. I don't like to repeat past mistakes. So that's it for mine. Thank you.
Well, this is kind of a slippery, a slippery slope on this one because we're getting into adequate and fair, some issues that are not,
Wait, what are we getting into?
issues that, like fair housing and different things, maybe. I am in agreement to pass this, and I think you already stated, maybe we need to state that once they leave, then no one else could go in there. I thought that was going to be put in the ordinance, in the text amendment.
Well, it's as applied for, so.
Okay.
But certainly you can recommend changes.
So, Carl alluded to having gotten into trouble before. The way this is currently written, it would apply if there were another situation like this. If you change it to just this property, then you're in trouble.
Right.
Then it's a special law.
Oh, okay.
So the way it is now is more likely constitutional than if you changed it to say, oh, it's only about this property, and when this family moves out, then we're done, and then it goes away, and, I don't agree with that. The other ordinances that you're talking about were very clearly, well, one of them was very clearly about a specific property, and the other one, because of being passed simultaneously, was very clearly about a specific property. So I think it should stay as it is.
No, I'm not going to, I know, I'm sorry. I know, and that's what.
Do not apologize.
No, I'm not trying not to apologize. I know,
Please
it's just that I understand, I see both, it's like a catch-22. It's like if we don't alter it for just this one use, I can see the use going on, and I question this, would this apply to any other property in town that's currently zoned industrial? Because I know at least two where Cedar Brook is, over there had a residential structure.
Are people currently living there?
No, but okay. Hold on.
I can tell you that.
But we don't want to talk about that it doesn't exist. We don't want to talk
Okay.
about that. What we want to talk about is this, and we're going to recommend it or not recommend it.
Okay.
And if it does exist somewhere else, then it would apply. But we don't really want to discuss that.
Okay, no, I get what you're saying is like if we,
I'm not really sure why it actually matters if someone lived there forever, if they were comfortable there in an industrial, I mean, it's not ideal, but I'm not really sure why it hurts the town if there's, but anyway, that's just my, it's just my opinion.
Any other?
I wouldn't put it on someone. I wouldn't say, oh, let's just zone something industrial that's next to residential. But this is something that already exists and they want to be there. And so I don't really see an issue with it.
I guess what would happen if the current family, did find home? See, that's my concern is like, we're writing it for the current family, which is fine. I don't want to displace, but.
Not fine, actually.
Was that?
It's really not fine.
Yeah, but,
So.
but if they find other housing, somebody else can move in there. So it's almost like worker housing for the company on site. And that's what I think the industrial zone is not allowing residential for that. So that's what I'm concerned, it's just that it might not apply to other sites, but we don't know when this house will be, when this portion of their parcel will be developed. And it could be 20, 25 years before that portion gets developed. So you could have someone living there for 20 to 25 years, which is not the intent of the industrial zone, is to allow residential habitation or whatever you want, I mean, residential housing. But particularly for the owner of the property, it's almost like company housing allowed.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if you're familiar, this property used to have two existing houses on this. Are we allowing both of the residents that are currently being possibly utilized on there to have residential use? or, because again, there were 2 homes on this property. So I'm not sure if we're taking that into consideration. I'm not sure, I thought the one residence was abandoned, but we don't have any way of verifying that, and so I'm just concerned that if we allow this, we're potentially allowing it for both of those residential uses on that same property. Just the thought.
Well, this says allow continuation of a residential use where a residential structure is existing. So I guess there's one structure where the family lives. So you're saying there's another structure that has been used as residentially?
Prior to Lot 15 becoming King Sports.
Okay, so
As I was trying to say.
yeah, I know, I'm just trying to figure out by looking at the language and listening to what you were saying and to see if you're saying the same thing.
Their intent is for one residential structure to continue. And where it just says allow a residential structure, you can substitute a for one residential structure. And that would, I understand John's comment.
Right, and my question is like, for instance, when we have a, what is it, a non-conforming use, and after a year, then it reverts back to whatever it was before. So if this other residential structure is not being used residentially, then after a year, is it not going to be a residential use, and then we don't have to worry about this language?
It's been vacant.
My question.
Gary?
So I want to reiterate Carl's point, because I can think of another specific example that's adjacent to me of a property that is currently being used as a residence. As soon as he sells it, it will go industrial, but there's a residential structure on there. So what's to stop a business from buying that property and using it for housing that's unregulated? And I think this is a little too open-ended.
What do you mean by unregulated?
Somebody that works out of town, their crews come and it's 20 guys coming and living in the house. There's nothing to kind of
Okay, I just wanted to know what you meant.
control. I mean, if unregulated was the wrong word, I apologize.
No,
but
it's
that's,
not. I just wanted to know what you meant.
It's not monitored or regulated is where I think by the town. So that's all I'm getting at, is that there are instances where I think businesses could seek this out and use this as a loophole. So I understand the concern, but I think there needs to be more than 2 sentences to achieve the outcome.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
2 quick questions. Ron, did I mishear or hear correctly that you had said eventually King Sports, so the owner of that lot, is going to raise that residence and place another building in its site?
I'm working on a site plan to add up to 5 warehouse buildings, with one of them being where that house sits. Question is balancing out. It will go no matter what, but amount of warehouse will depend on how I can handle stormwater management.
Gotcha. So difficult question to ask. Is there a
But
time?
their plan is,
There's not a
their
time
plan
frame.
is to remove that house at some point in time
Gotcha.
for a warehouse.
Okay. And my second is just from my impression of the proposed rewording, it sounds as if this rewording would allow, even after this family leaves that residence, that the residential use will be allowed to continue. So the operator of that industrial district could then bring in another tenant into that resident as it's currently written. And I know that's not the intent, but I'm just saying as it's currently written.
Yeah, I guess it gets to a point of how it becomes that it isn't legal when you start to get too specific or special.
I mean, I think that that can resolve. I also think the other thing, let's start with the other thing, because it's easier for me anyway. You can tell me what you think about this. So if, I'm more concerned about, it's like you have a house and then you just have like anybody who wants coming, living there, and partying and whatever. So is it possible to say there's a residence it's residential, then it becomes industrial, this house stays residential, whatever house it is, anywhere, but the residential piece has to behave as residential, like sort of like an overlay onto the text amendment. So it can't be like what he was saying, oh, then there's no regulations governing the house, so 20 people can come and live there. I don't know if you kind of what I'm saying, but it's like, while this residential piece is within the industrial, the residential is in a little sub-residential zone of its own.
I'm sure there's something you could draft.
I mean,
probably can't be fully responsive,
Yeah,
in terms
exactly.
of what that would be, but.
It's like we can't plan for everything, but that's like one issue. Now, in terms of, I think you can fix, if you really want, something to revert back or to make sure that it's not continuing forever as residential, then, you put something like, once the current residents depart, then it's no longer residential. I mean, it's not like some other family or worker or whatever can move in, but that would have to be wordsmithed.
You kind of already, to some degree, have that. That may not address this situation, however, and that is your non-conforming use.
If it doesn't have to be a year?
Non-conforming use, it continues even after the property is rezoned industrial, until such time it's discontinued for a year.
For a year, right. So I
Right.
think his implication was, okay, they move out,
And then,
a few months later, the next worker family moves in, but it's less than a
Right.
year. So maybe that's just the chance we take. I mean, I don't even
I
see
think
a problem. I
we're
mean,
trying to maybe play too much devil's, I mean, the intent of the Kings is not to make this a permanent resident, is that they've got an employee with young children in the school system
I mean,
that
we
they
can,
don't want
we
to.
can see both sides.
Yeah.
But as you know, it's like their intent doesn't really matter. The language is what will matter. I don't have a problem at all with their intent. Now, this other scenario I can see could be problematic if it arose. If they wanted to live there for 20 years, like surrounded by industrial, like, I don't know why anybody would want to, but I don't see that as a problem. But, I don't know if people think that this should be reworded some, or,
Well, and here's, I guess, a good point, and Deborah just brought it up to me. That residential use had discontinued for over a year when Doc Fool was living in that parcel. So that specific home, there was nobody living in that specific home for more than a year. So is that special exception, I guess it was prior to the actual site plan being approved.
I think we already discussed this, which is why we have a text amendment, right? Isn't that why we're
Correct.
doing it?
So the two distinguishing features of this current situation, that is to say Lot 15, is the fact that the resident is there, it was not there at the time and did not continuously live there. It's the resident is new, quote unquote, to the particular lot, as I understand it, as new as King Sports is to that particular lot. Further complication is, however, the fact that you had two different uses that coexisted prior to this becoming industrial, as I remember this. This goes back a year. One, there was a residential use. I think it did discontinue for more than a year. But also, it was coupled with an office-type use I believe it was the veterinarian clinic, if I recall correctly, and maybe some office use after that.
Right.
And it's the sort of combination that complicates things and makes it not your typical non-conforming use circumstance. Which is why, I mean, normally you would just simply say, well, you have a non-conforming use, it goes away when, you know, there's a discontinuation of the non-conforming use. Here, it's not a non-conforming use because it had discontinued for a year. And, you know, I won't get any further into that rather complicated analysis over a year ago, but you get it, you get the idea. So, you know.
And one of the conditions for approval on lot 17, or lot 15, was that all residential uses were supposed to be terminated. That was one of the conditions of the approval that you guys approved.
So what we're being asked now is to backtrack on the condition of approval that the landowner agreed to obtain industrial zoning of the property. All right, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Well, did we know about this family at that time? Were they living there? Or they weren't even there?
They were living there at the time of the site plan. I think I brought that up as an issue.
I mean, I remember we've
And-
discussed it
and-
before,
And
but
we
I
had
don't
that as a discussion, come back with a solution, Ron.
Well, I know like the last time we talked about this, but I'm not
This
sure
was my
about.
proposed solution.
I really hate to ask them to be uprooted when they can't find something here. I understand that that's an issue, and we know that it's an issue as far as affordable housing is concerned. I don't have a problem with this. So I'm going to make a motion that to add the residential component to the industrial zone in certain circumstances, and recommend, give it a positive recommendation to the town council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we give a positive recommendation to town council for text amendment ordinance 2022-29. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay,
Okay.
as written.
So it will go to the council with a positive recommendation.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Just remember, they can, they don't have,
I understand. I
Okay.
just have to follow it through. My commitment to them.
okay. Moving on. Discussions and recommendations to the town council. First is ordinance 2022-25.
Yeah, I noticed you took a pass on this when I was away last month. That's unfortunate. I was like, oh,
sorry.
I still have to read this?
Sorry.
For you,
No,
Leslie.
it was just- we were just battling, we were just not clear about things. Go ahead. Tom, do you want to start?
Madam
More.
Chair, if I can make a statement on behalf of the Beck Development Team, then I'll go sit back, if that's acceptable.
That's fine.
I did want to bring the Planning Commission up to date here. The Beck Property Development Team today resubmitted an updated pre-concept sketch plan that proposes a mixed-use development of excellent design.
Read slowly.
I do have a handout here, if you would like it.
I'd like a handout.
Handout, excellent.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Resubmitted an updated pre-concept sketch plan that proposes a mixed-use development of excellent design, facilitating the integrated and orderly development of residential and non-residential uses, which occurs in harmony with the surrounding land uses. Proposed ordinance 2022-25 would render this submitted pre-concept sketch plan unusable and void. Therefore, the Beck Property Development Team, including Pleasance Development, LLC, who are here tonight, Vamar Associates, and the Beck family, of who Ron Beck is here tonight also, strongly recommend the Planning Commission reject the proposed ordinance and issue an unfavorable recommendation of ordinance 2022-25 based on the following. The proposed changes in ordinance number 2022-25, including the changes to open space, requirements, lot sizes, and percentage of building types, are a dramatic departure from the originally adopted MXD ordinance, which was applied to the Beck property in October 21. And number two, the proposed changes in ordinance 2022-25 would make the development of the Beck property infeasible as a mixed-use development. Three, the proposed changes in the ordinance 2022-25 change the ordinance from a mixed-use zone to standard residential zone, thereby eliminating the flexibility of a mixed-use ordinance, which will not allow for a higher quality of design that the town sought with the original MXD zone. Number four, the proposed changes in ordinance 2022-25 eliminates the collaborative process built into the original MXD ordinance, where the town and developer work together to agree on a mixed-use development plan. The proposed ordinance 22-25 is completely inconsistent with the revised pre-concept sketch plan that has been submitted for the Beck property, and the proposed ordinance, quite frankly, ignores the work done by the development team to date and dismisses the town's prior involvement and efforts expended on the Beck property. Finally, the proposed changes in ordinance number 2022-25 are damaging to the property owners who agreed to a rezoning of the property to MXD, having been granted the legal rights contained within the originally approved MXD zoning ordinance. Thank you. I am here to answer questions. I will remove myself back
Okay, thank you.
Madam,
for discussion.
oh, go
I have a
ahead.
question.
Yes.
I don't know if it's to you, but who came up, where'd this ordinance come from? Who came up with it? Oh,
I
good.
did, yes.
Okay.
I was gonna.
Good, then you can tell us. all
I
about
was going to talk and see some points on it, particularly number 6, because I see it as not damaging to the property owners, and I believe law in the state gives property owners and developers no real legal rights to any plan until shovel hits dirt. I can't think of the correct term, but I believe that is correct, is it
Vested,
not?
vested, I believe it is. Isn't it vested?
Vested rights, thank you.
Vested rights is what you're referring to.
Yeah. Carl, can you back up for a minute?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
And I assume, but we didn't get this with our packet, that this is related to 2021-16 and 17, or no? Like,
Oh, you,
no? I mean, it's not like a response at all, it doesn't change any of that? I managed to find 17, but not 16. Okay, so no, okay. Well, can you just go through and talk us through the ordinance?
yeah.
Did you guys do this last month, or you didn't?
We did.
Oh, you did?
Didn't do much on it, we just decided to talk about it, said it
You
was
don't
some
have
good.
to do word for word, but just kind of give us what you're.
Basically, hold on, Leslie. Well, first off, I was going to say I was willing to offer, I know we got 90 days to talk about this and give something. And since most of these points on the ordinance seem to be related to the recently submitted plan that was just submitted today, I understand, and no one outside of the planning department has seen it, I kind of can't really say if everything he's stating in here is the truth.
I want to know.
So I really would like to see the plan before we start discussing these points of why ordinance 2022-25 seems to destroy this wonderful plan that seems to be in with cohesive use of the surrounding land.
This, okay, I would like to say this ordinance, okay, it really doesn't have anything to do with what they've submitted. All right, you want to change the MXD ordinance to the following things. It doesn't matter what they have submitted, okay? We're talking about this specifically, in general.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. But it's just
No, it's
interesting that we're
not. We are
willing.
doing this, it is in general.
Well, it's just generally interesting that we're willing to approve a text amendment just recently that unapproves a site approval condition, but I'll try and go through the ordinance the best
Carl,
I can.
stop, please.
I just
Stop.
want to understand what it is.
Okay, Leslie, no, I'll go
I haven't had a lot
for
of
it.
time to review.
No
it.
problem. If I remember correctly, the best I can, since it requires them to give 50% of the total property acreage, gross acreage, as open space. That is meant to be a starting point for discussions. It does not allow them to seek or approve, I believe, an exception that has been granted or could potentially be granted to them. It basically also sets up that pretty much following existing code that are for the higher density developments, if for some reason, if I'm understanding the sections right, particularly for open space, 9823, I believe, Tom, covers if the town was perceived adequate in open space. I know it gets kind of confusing when it's adequate in the section codes for the APFO, right? 9823?
No, the APFO is 25-5.
Okay.
And basically as respects mixed-use district development.
Okay, so 9823, since it was particularly in the original MXD ordinance, for some reason, MXD development was specifically exempted from the required open space. This puts it back into par with R5 and R7 at that they are required to, open space requirement for developers and mixed use shall be 50% of the gross total acreage again. They can make an adjustment for the above percentages by the property owner or somebody, but just maybe no lower than 45%. It reapplies the townhouse development requirements that are currently in town that have been used all over town. Currently, MXD use for townhouses are hence exempted from requiring and following setbacks, distance, lot sizes, minimum lot sizes, and all that for townhouse and group sizes of townhomes. Mixed use district is intended to provide attractive. That's, I believe that was just added into 11237 because it was moved from somewhere else. That's why it's underlined. The usage and the approved usage non-residential stays the same. The density, it puts lot area and setback requirements for the MXD, which currently there are none. It sets a maximum of 8 to 12 units per total net developable acreage. If you all remember, it is currently set for gross. So the net is, I've always been told by.
Slow down.
Sorry, I'm on page 6 of 10, Leslie, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's where I am. Yeah.
Okay, density, H. Lot area and setback. Currently, it is a maximum of 8 dwelling units per gross acreage. So they can build anything up to whatever the gross acreage, which I believe is 93 acres for the BEC. So you potentially 8 times 90. You can go from there. You can do the math. Maximum of 8 to 12. This would set back a maximum of 8 to 12 dwelling units per net developable acreage. If I understand the definition of net developable correctly, it is, John or Tom or Bonnie can correct me, it's the amount of acreage left after open space calculations and land used for roads and everything else have been taken out. So it's actually a lower number of units allowed on the property, but yet it seems that everybody wants to still put more. The maximum number of attached townhomes, currently, as I said earlier, there are no townhome requirements or setbacks. This will impose the current 5 dwelling units that is currently used throughout all the current code and throughout the town. So it's bringing it into like the cohesiveness of townhouse developments, a variety of lot types, property subdivided under the requirements It's like, shall provide a variety of lot types according to the following criteria, sets percentage for lots, which is again, current code. It does not say it needs to be an X percentage or numbers. It just says a certain percentage. So hence again, diversity of housing options and everything else, but the town is in control, not the developer. No more than 10% shall be multi-dwelling family units. I had some comments from people that should be taken out. They didn't even want apartments there, but I left that in because I believe apartments could be useful or should be included in a potential any type of MXD design, but not a lot. No more than 2 standalone multifamily dwelling units shall be allowed in the MXD, including a hotel. This takes out the potential chance of, because they submitted one plan where apartments were on the west, and magically, when the second plan came, there was 2 more apartment buildings on the east. So we went up in units by about 75 apartment units. So that's hopefully saying that. The number of multifamily is capped at 150, including any units on a hotel. That leaves the developer to decide if they want hotel or apartments, but no more than 150 units or a mix of that. Again, it sets minimum lot sizes for detached, semi-detached townhomes for the mid and end units. This is all taken from existing code, so there's nothing new. And I do recall, I believe the second iteration of the plan included setbacks and things for that. So it's implementing nothing that they have not done already or have shown a willingness to do it. Then it's just drawings that I've taken out of existing code. Same thing with minimum lot, setback buffer. But I believe I took all this from existing code. I believe it's R5 or R7. So again, nothing is new. It is all in existing code. So I really don't know why there's a pushback from some people right now saying it's all new, it stops stuff, but yet it's all existing code. So if existing code is not good enough, I don't know why. We've used it all over town before for these type of developments. Why it's not good enough for this, I don't know. Nothing really stops the developer from developing it in a useful way that shows, I want to say, variety, as Councilman Demoda would say, a world-class mixed-use development. It's really, the developer really has a lot of say of how it's developed. So I really don't see why these points are indicating that this would stop all that ability for the developer to pick and choose of how they want to design. But that's about basically it. Leslie, is mainly, reiterating existing code into the MXD that I still believe still allows or gives the developer, I want to say, their choice of how to develop the property. It just puts the town back in control instead of developer. It does not affect any property rights whatsoever of any owner, any development team, because Maryland is a vested right property state, which kind of means they have no real rights until shovel hits dirt, is the best way to describe it, which I've been told at the planning conferences and MML is a pretty good interpretation of that. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Comments, questions?
Well, I have to, apologize for my, I was away and then I got back and I was really behind with work. And I have to admit, I haven't even gotten through reading this in detail. I know, thank you for just reading it.
Oh,
What I feel like I would need to do is compare this to the current code. And I think that there's some relevance to 2021, 16, and 17.
Okay.
Because some of the stuff you mentioned in here is not in the original statute, but it's in that one of the ordinances.
Okay.
Because there is open space requirements in the original statute. But those 2 ordinances potentially change some of that. So it's very interesting, and I'm sure it has some positive things in it, but I'm not prepared to make a recommendation either way
Yeah.
myself, just because I need to.
Thank you. I said, a lot of stuff when I write these things are for starting of discussions and bringing, I've listened to the people. I've heard what the citizens have said. I'm not going to go into the approval last year of all this, but this is a way of putting the town kind of back in control of development. And I also have concerns of the other things. So really, if this new plan doesn't even meet what the council considers important, we're right back to the starting board on it. I don't think it's going to go much farther.
Right, you said they just.
Yeah, thank you.
That we haven't, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I just think it takes the entire mixed-use zone totally out, because you're referring back to what is in the code now. The mixed use was developed because there wasn't anything like it that we had here. And it was done with flexibility in mind, so that we could, instead of sprawling and keep sprawling, which is not a good idea, is to start to build up and to add to, to put things together so that it would be condensed, and that it would be easy for the people, to go to the different commercial places, to walk, to have walkability, to have, different biking trails and things. That's what we envisioned when we started with this mixed use. And it never referenced any zones, any ordinances or anything that we had about the townhouses, about the single family, about, it gave square footages for the commercial. It did give numbers, yes. It didn't give setbacks and everything, because we're trying to be flexible enough that when that pattern book came in, we would be able to look at it, and that's where those things are going to start to develop. So that was my vision, and this just totally, just that you just threw the MXD right in the trash can, in my opinion. Anybody else have any comments? I'm going to open it up to the public if anyone wants to speak. Do I have anyone wants to talk from the public? Please state your name and, yes.
You can sit down, Dave, if you want.
Yeah, if you want to sit there, you can sit.
Even though, I'm Dave Bowersox, 24 North Court Street, Westminster, Maryland. Is that better? I'm here, happy to represent the Beck family, as I have with you since 2015, when we started to put this MXD project together, and which you culminated last October, we thought, with the adoption of an ordinance after hours and hours and tons of money was put into this exercise. I'm sorry you don't feel, Mr. Munder, that the property owners don't have any rights. And I'm sorry you don't believe what we're talking about in these notations. The Beck family has owned this property for generations. It has, at least for the life of Ron Beck, so that's at least 35 years, always been within the corporate limits of the town of Mount Airy. In the 1960s, their farm was cut in half by a public project, Route 27, the bypass. When the Church of Latter-day Saints wanted a site, the Becks sold them one. When the bowling alley wanted to come in, the Becks sold them that site. When the town wanted a water tower, the Becks sold them that site. All we're asking, and let me reiterate something else. I have represented in various capacities either the family or those who had an interest in purchasing all or part of the family's property for close to 20 years, I think. Every time this family has come to you for support in doing something with what's left of the property that they're paying city taxes on, it seems there's been new, and I'm sorry to say this, creative ways discovered to slow them down, to put them off, and to tell them no. And I'm sorry, this feels just like that and nothing else. No one has articulated, either in this proposal or in any run-up to it, I don't believe there was much, what new circumstances have been discovered that in the nature of public health, safety, and welfare require you to radically modify what we took 6 years to adopt last year, that compels you to go from 10% to 50% open space right out of the gate, to limit the size of the lots where a mixed-use development, this is a collaborative venture. It's based on a pattern book. It requires a land development plan. You want control of it, you get to approve the land development plan. So forgive me if I'm a little bit upset at what I've been hearing, and even more upset at what I'm not hearing in terms of any justification for gutting the underlying theory, purpose, and intent of an MXD zone. The idea is collaboration, not one-party control. The property owners are affected by this. 10% versus 50% open space, that's a big impact. I know the town is anxious to acquire the right-of-way to extend Center Street, and maybe for a couple of other public project sites. If you think this is any kind of an incentive to the family voluntarily working towards that, I haven't talked to the family about that very topic. I'd be surprised.
I can tell you right now, that's the farthest thing from the intention of this at all.
And it seems like that has been accomplished.
Well, I can also say two things, two words to the Becks if they think it is. It's called something called eminent domain. We have grants from the state to purchase Center Street, to do the plan. So in reality, completing Center Street for this, to get this.
Your response is to threaten the family with eminent domain?
No, it's not my response.
You should consider that if you do this down zoning, that a court's going to consider that down zoning and a resulting diminution in value as a result is not going to be valid. So you'd have to pay them at a market rate that reflects something else.
I don't believe it's down zoning because I believe it's my interpretation or understanding of down zoning. It is when there is no value whatsoever left in the property. So hence, they still have the flexibility, thank you for using that now, that's the word I'll be using I can think of. They have the flexibility to still design it within the mixed use and previous iterations of the plan have shown willingness to meet the town requirements on open space, because I believe they went from 10 to, I believe they're hovering around 20 to 30% now, as I've indicated. As I've indicated, Mr. Barrett-Sachs, that 50% is a starting point for discussions, but the public, which are the citizens of this town, the Becks, I'm not denying the Becks whatsoever of their contributions to the town and certain businesses. But unfortunately, currently, they are one family in this town that, yes, they do own the property. I'll give them that. But it's the citizens of this town that I'm representing. It's just not one particular family.
What will
And the way
happen
you're
next
making it out,
year?
Mr. Bowersox, let me finish. The way you're making it out to be is that this town owes the Becks something.
They owe them to be treated fairly
And I
and
believe,
not change the rules a year after they've submitted a concept plan that apparently has ruffled some feathers. Now, what are you going to do in another year when part of the plan is underway? Are you going to come back and change the rules on them again?
are you saying that the plan is already approved somehow?
No.
Because you just said.
Not at all.
You just said the plan is, what happens in a year if it's underway? And that to me seems like there's some, I'm not implying anything, but just like there's forces at work here that have seemed to be
It's
almost have
arguably underway
guaranteed,
now.
that have almost guaranteed the Becks that no matter what plan, I'm going to go off the point, I'll stop after this, that the point seems to be that the plan will be approved. And that's, as I said earlier in my thing, there are some serious, even in the pre-concepts from the previous development team that has changed recently, there are some serious concerns with that none of this development team seems to have been taken into consideration.
So is the solution to change the rules
No, the solution is.
while they're working on the concept?
Sir, well, you just said it, working on the concept. So nothing has been finalized. We haven't even finalized a concept of a pre-concept.
Stop. I think there's, from this decision, I'm ready to make a vote. And I move that we not recommend this ordinance. Is there a second to this? It's been seconded. We're going to vote on this ordinance for a non-recommendation, for a negative recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's not recommended. We're going on to ordinance 2022-12, proposed changes to the FXD zoning district. John, this is just wording from the county, correct?
Yeah, so we just have some revised wording from the county, and actually, we're going to change this to, propose changes to the FSD planned language. So
Okay.
it's really not a zoning district. My bad. Okay.
1, 2, 3. I gotta wait for her to come back,
Okay,
don't I?
probably yes. 'cause-
Yes, I have to wait till Leslie comes back. Is 3 or 4 the quorum?
I count for the quorum.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're talking the forest station, right?
Yeah.
All right, so my question is, 9830 down at the bottom, where we'll have an approved letter of exemption by the time of concept plan and review. Why is the door being open for exemption? The code should be written so it stands on its own and should not need exception. That's just my opinion, perception.
What page are you on, Gary?
I'm on the second page. It's the second section underneath, under now therefore, 9830.
Section B?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My experience of seeing stuff in the town is it just seems like we're always doing an exception. The forestation, I feel like this should be something that should be standalone and shouldn't require exceptions. That's just my assertion there.
Well, I was asked to draft this to make it comply with or compliant or consistent with the county's ordinance, this having to do with forest stand delineation. And essentially, there are occasions when an exemption can be applied for. Doesn't mean it's granted, per se, but it can be requested. So this would be in conformity with the county's ordinance. The county has weighed in with some additional language as well that I know John's made me privy to, at least, if not you all as well, to even make sure it's even more consistent, I guess, in the county's eyes with the county ordinance. So the reference to the exemption has to do with the fact that the county has a procedure. Again, it's just a procedure by which it may be requested in a given circumstance, and there may be legitimate reasons in a given circumstance to give an exemption. But that's not to say that everyone gets an exemption.
Right, and I think it's just, what it comes down to is ultimately, previously, before you started any development, you had to do a forest and delineation plan. That function is no longer applicable. It's part of the concept plan submission, along with the potential for an exemption if you're requesting exemption from that forest and delineation. But ultimately, they don't hand them out like bubble gum. You know, they're very, 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 very restrictive on exemptions. And I'm not even sure what the criteria is, but ultimately that's what we have Carroll County for. They review for that specific item.
The main thing that really gave rise to this is really the when. That is to say, when is it that this is obtained? Our ordinance said, or currently says, prior to the concept plan submittal, there would be this process by which this would be obtained. The county doesn't do that anymore, if they ever did, but they don't do it anymore. They do it now, I thought, at the concept review stage and before approval of concept. And so that's the main purpose for this.
So Tom, big picture, the rationale here is to try to be consistent.
Yes.
With the county.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would make, go ahead, Barney.
I was just going to say, an exemption, I think, is under 40,000 square foot of disturbance.
Okay.
So if you have a very small site plan, you're not required to do forest conservation. So it's just, that's the reason why that exemption is in there, I imagine, is more for those smaller projects. But there might be other reasons why they would approve that. But I think that's the primary thing that's always the determining factor, whether there's forest conservation or not.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I would just like to add that I think what we should do is the recommendation should be with the revised language from Jonathan Bowman for
Okay.
a favorable recommendation. And we'll redraft that with Tom and implement his correct wording he wants it as, and before it's presented to town council.
That sounds like a good motion. Too bad you can't make a motion.
It's a great motion.
Anyone like to make the motion? Okay, so I move that we recommend approval, positive approval to the town council for ordinance 2022-12 with the changes that have been made, the changes in the strikeouts. Tom will make those, and then it will be presented to the council. All those in, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Moving on. The next one is ordinance which I just, 2022-21, proposed changes to the CC zoning district.
Madam Chair, may I just say something before on both of the next ones, so we don't repeat? I sent the email around to the council requesting workshops. Only one of them got back to me saying the dates were good, and another person responded back to me. I have not heard back from every council. That's why I never brought forward any recommendations for workshops or anything else. So I tried, I waited. One got back and said, yeah, they were good. Another one, I knew his answer and everything else. So that's where we stand with the council on that. So sorry, Roxanne, I tried yet again.
Well, so any suggestions?
Do we still do the email that you were proposing to do?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't email everybody because I'm not allowed to, email to a quorum.
You can email them individually, or you can email them all and not ask for them to respond.
Yeah, well, I did. I emailed Tom, Roxanne, and Bill, and John. But, and I was just basically about the whereas clauses, which I was agreeing with
Right.
what Tom had proposed. But I forgot at the time, so before when I had emailed, whenever that was, about the whereas clauses, and then I subsequently noticed that there's nothing, in the current revision, there's nothing about all the stuff that you can do or not do in the CC district. So I don't think that we want to leave that all out.
Allowed versus prohibited uses?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's in there now. All the allowed uses and not allowed uses and special exceptions. So I don't think we want to keep those out. I think we want those to, are they still in there?
There are 3 asterisks down at the bottom.
Oh, okay, good.
Means this ordinance continues as is without change.
Excellent. See, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Okay, good. Then so I don't know if you wanted to show people what I did. Sorry, I did it like
Yeah,
Sunday
the
night.
whereas clauses you're
Yeah.
talking?
Yeah.
I think they were better.
Yeah.
As you suggested them.
Okay.
And I think they were circulated by email.
Well, yeah, it's basically what you had already circulated.
So
Yeah.
my suggestion might be, as we've done occasionally in the past, supposing those changes are acceptable to you all, and supposing further that you would recommend it with these changes, is when it gets to the council, of course, they have to set a public hearing and all that, but I would show in red line a version to the town council that is entitled, the planning commission suggested changes. We can do that if there are 1 or 2 changes, typically through just the staff report, it can be done kind of at the table. But I find that it's easier when you have multiple changes that are a little more complicated than that to give the town council, even though I get complaints of too many copies and nobody knows what the hell these red lines are. It's easier for them to see in red
Yes.
line version what the planning commission has recommended by way of changes.
And could there be, I'm not saying if there are any changes, I guess, not with Word, but maybe another comment sheet, a attached sheet of, say you change something and you're thinking behind it maybe, might help?
I mean, like in the revision block on the side?
Yeah, or just a separate, like, in the comment section or something, so if the chairwoman's not able to make the the town council meeting or something, or you, Leslie, or somebody can't explain the changes, we at least understand your thought process behind them.
I mean, the changes that were just made were to make the whereas clause actually consistent with the body of the ordinance.
Sorry.
So anyway, how do you want?
So if
Right.
understanding everything is the only changes at the count that.
They were only in the whereas.
Is the
and there were-
whereas
and there were
is,
3
okay, I'll just say.
were not really, I mean, they were sort of, not really substantive, but substantive in an explanatory way. I
For the
guess.
purpose of making the
Clarification.
whereas is consistent with the ordinance, okay. if asked, I can give that, and it's agreed upon of the commission.
I would agree to that. I think then, you want me to make the motion again? That we send the ordinance 2022-21, we send it with our changes and explanations to the council, and this is our approval of that ordinance with those changes. I know I kind of backed into that, didn't I?
I'll say, yeah.
It's a second. All the, do you want to say something about it before we go? Okay.
And, because I've been watching this from both sides and trying to figure out where this is headed, right? Like, and take this back up to 30,000 feet. Maybe I make sure I understand it right. The intent here is to try and truly establish what goes up against residential use. Is that what the general understanding of that, like real layman's terms? Is that?
Well, it's that, but it's also for consistency, because right now, if you have, you can't put limited commercial next to residential, but you can put community commercial, which is more intense than limited commercial. You can put that next to residential, which is totally not consistent.
I don't, again, so I agree there's a consistency issue.
Yeah.
You guys allow industrial next to residential. So I'm like, yes.
Backacre circle.
See, that's,
But to that point though, I think you got to explain this to the council and appeal to the citizen comments, because I sit here and hear it, right? Whether it's the storage, whether it's Butler Road, it's the intense use adjoining residential. Throw a memo on it that says, this is what we're trying to do. This is our solution. Don't like it, give us something else, but the public's screaming.
This is a buffering solution.
It is, but
It's graduated.
But I think it's getting lost in the weeds, because I think what I heard at the council level was, we're making this too challenging, but at the same time, the public is really opposed to intense commercial use adjacent to the property.
Oh, so the public agrees with it then? 'Cause they're.
Agree, my perception, I can't speak for everyone, but I think then you get into the one-offs and the details, but I think if you kind of start at the 30,000 and work your way down, hopefully the council would understand, because I think the council, their attention is to what the public is saying. And like I said, I've heard it for the last 3 or 4 years.
I know.
I'm staying kind of quiet on that.
But I mean, like I said, but I've heard it over the last 3 or 4 years where it's like, the concern is what's being put in next to me. And while the council should be legislating the problem, I understand they have everything else they're up against, but this should be cleaned up to meet the needs of the town and the neighboring public. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there.
thank you.
So I have a question about our code, because it already said, it doesn't say, it prohibits industrial from being against residential, right? Or does it not?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's got to, so
I'd
we
have to
didn't.
look, but I don't think so. And I
Oh,
know
then
it's
we
been
should be
done.
changing that as well.
Yes.
I have to look, you have the
Large
code.
buffer between industrial and residential.
Twin Ridge.
Commercial
Yeah.
and residential.
Thank you, yeah, Twin Ridge too. You just got to be careful.
Rising Ridge Road, we have
Yeah.
LDG Industrial Park back straight up
Right,
to
and-
residential.
Yeah, I sure remember voting
2
against that.
sides, 3 sides.
If
So,
you,
and in all those situations, it was residential first, and then the industrial was,
Before my time.
yeah. Because that's kind of, it's just like this person who lives in a residence in an industrial thing, well, that person wants to stay there, which is
Madam Chair, may I
building.
Yep,
make a comment here?
sure.
If we just got to be careful, as if we start limiting what goes against what, we're going to end up with not able to have any commercial development anywhere in town with any new.
I don't think that's true.
Well, I'm just saying.
I mean,
saying
that's a little,
the way I'm
that's a
looking
little,
at it. Okay, because it's like right now, I believe all the commercial zones say the same thing. You got to be next to a more intensive use, all the way except community commercial. So if you do community commercial on that way, you take out, where do you start? What zone do you start with for commercial use against a residential property? Or can it just go against existing commercial property somewhere? So say Main Street, while they're looking, just say it's like if you start with neighborhood professional, do you graduate in down use? Like say neighborhood professional or limited commercial, neighborhood professional to residential? Or then do you upzone from like neighborhood professional to limited commercial to general commercial going down?
What are you talking about?
I'm just saying, if you're saying, okay, that you can't have residential next to industrial, you can't have residential next to community commercial, you're currently saying, I believe in all the,
We're not saying you can't, because it already does exist.
okay,
We're
but any
saying
new,
that going forward,
that's,
we wouldn't change a zone to commercial if it borders
okay,
residential.
but then where would you start? I mean, would we look
Neighborhood
for,
professional is the border between residential.
that's what, okay.
Yes. And then neighborhood professional, limited commercial, I don't even think community commercial is supposed to be next to neighborhood professional. I think it's limited commercial.
Okay.
Now, Carl, this was all before our time.
Oh, yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Members. But to me, maybe I'm totally wrong, but to me, what happened was the council, maybe with help from the planning commission, created new zoning districts, limited commercial and neighborhood professionals, so that they could do this thing, buffer thing, but they never amended the community commercial ordinance. Now, maybe that's not what happened, but I just don't understand why you would say limited commercial can't go next to, residential, but you wouldn't change the commercial
Community commercial.
ordinance. I mean, it makes
So I have a
zero
que-
sense to me, but a lot of people don't understand that logic, so maybe I'm the illogical one.
I have a question related to this. So let's take example of Osler property, right? So does the road divide those things, just as it does in Backacre Circle? You have industrial here, you have residential here.
On the other side.
The road, just like Doc O'Brien's property, we have to be really careful, actually, making adjustments to this and allowing to make this step. We might be, singling out the Vosler property where it's adjoined on the other side of the road by a residential. And again, so unless we turn everything on South Main there to LC, CC, and then an NP buffer between that and residential, I mean, I just wonder, how that's going to potentially impact that rezoning request for that end of town. And that's just one example.
That's a good one.
Well, another concern we had was not to get into spot zoning. We wanted to have an overall plan. We wanted to have a buffering. And you don't want to get into a spot zoning situation. Absolutely not.
I know all this was done before our time.
Well, and we just keep adding on to it. We keep changing things, and it's very inconsistent, and we've got to get some consistency. We have to get some consistency, and while we're still working, on the master plan, and I was totally serious when I said in the town council meeting the other night that the master plan is not going to be done until 2024, because we keep getting text amendments, changes in ordinances or whatever, and it's limiting us as to how we can make the decisions that we want to make that we feel are the best decisions to make in the master plan. So we're trying to get some consistency here. So have you found what you were looking for, Leslie?
We've delayed as much as we can, Leslie.
Well, for a while, I only had the list, like, we will have these 12 zones. But that is not, okay. So
Right.
I know
guess
the commercial zone is better than the industrial zoning.
use and CC.
I mean, Roxanne, just a hypothetical here on while we're,
There it
if you, okay.
Intended location.
Madam Chair, sorry, Roxanne, I keep.
No, go ahead.
Leslie said she found it, so
I have to read it.
She's got to
Okay.
read it.
Is it possible if we're talking about this, because I think one of the council members' concerns was that we seem to have a tendency if people can regroup properties all together in one big group, like there's no, we don't have a set number, like, okay, if somebody comes in for a neighborhood professional, that's just that one property there and then it stops there. It doesn't go any farther, or I guess maybe creep down, like all of a sudden, like, we'll start here, 2 years later, another master plan, another group comes in, so before you know it,
That's a concern.
say Main Street is the whole way down to downtown zone.
The way the code is currently written, neighborhood professional, that is not supposed to happen.
Okay,
That's how it's written.
Okay.
That's not how it's been interpreted, but that's how
And
it's
we
written.
have enforced that
Mm-hmm.
in the past, on more than one occasion.
Okay. And that was one,
I tell you, it's not.
are you
it's
doing
not
industrial
good
now,
that-
Leslie?
It's not, the purpose, both heavy commercial, light industrial, oh wait, but that's interesting. This district is intended for the location of both heavy commercial and light industrial uses.
What are you reading under? What's
I industrial district.
In the industrial.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So it includes
Um,
a range.
Basically similar, all right, and light industrial uses which are basically similar in nature and too few in number to warrant separate districts. These uses are of such size and character as to deem them inappropriate for other commercial districts. The district is intended so that they are located in a manner that makes them the least offensive to one another and to adjacent land use districts. Now, is that different than, are there two different industrials? Because you said, which one is it?
But it doesn't say,
What you're reading from,
Yeah,
industrial,
industrial
because we're
district.
talking about CC and NP,
I know,
not
industrial
industrial.
district.
So I'm not sure
Well,
why you're reading it as industrial.
because you said that there's industrial next to residential, so I was,
I asked about the dividing road. The road divides.
no, you were talking about, Twin Arch, or,
Did that on purpose.
Rising Ridge,
no, but before that, you mentioned
Twin Arch.
Twin Arch. That's why.
And that's why he's saying, is the road the dividing line? Is the road, yeah, there's a road there. On one side, it's residential, on the other side, it's
Question is,
industrial.
do we have
Most of
heavy
the road.
industrial, because it doesn't say it approves of heavy industrial, it's only light industrial. That's pretty funny.
I'm sorry, the question is, do we have any heavy industrial in the
Yeah,
town?
yeah, in town, I think
I
we
don't
do.
think so. No, it's all light.
definition, what's light and what's heavy. I guess, are we?
Code book is heavy, I know
Yeah, I
that
know.
much.
I mean, is it feasible in the zoning, like maybe match down to say on Main Street, I'm just pulling out roads and locations, to say neighborhood professional is not going to cross X street, period?
Well, I mean, if you look at the neighborhood professional
Yeah,
current code, it explains what its purpose is.
okay.
Its purpose is for like Dr. Boaz Schwartz.
Yeah, okay,
and
yeah.
Dr. Andrew and whatever, where they have these properties and they used to be houses.
Yeah.
And they're not being used and they're not gonna really offend anybody who's their neighbors, that's what it's for. It's not for, or Dr. Cappuccino, yes, that's fine, but it's not so all Dr. Cappuccino's neighbors can become neighborhood professional, because it clearly says that no one can become neighborhood professional based upon this other property
Surrounding.
becoming neighborhood professional. And they're all in here, like, not testifying, but whatever, like, oh my God, we need to be, it's like, why, do you want to be a business? No, I just want to sell my house for more money. I mean, of course, they don't say that, but that's, so, but that's, and they're all lined up, and then the rest of them
And
are
that
like,
was-
oh, we didn't apply, oh my God.
And
So,
that
well,
was
you
one-
shouldn't have applied, because that's not what the code says.
And that's what a councilman's concern was, is like
I saw-
the block rezoning.
And Jason- Except it was like really hard to figure out what he was talking about, but then I kind of figured out, oh, that's what he's talking about. Well, the current ordinance does not change that.
Yeah, and
But they need to understand how,
And we have interceded as a planning commission in the past to prevent that from happening.
well, in this current session, it was voted to approve one person's house, one property inappropriately, who did base their application on their next door neighbor, Dr. Cappuccino, not because they want to have a business in their house.
Yeah.
So that was,
That's just a recommendation, town council, they haven't voted.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, no.
Exactly.
Not I voted against it, but
I know it's,
the majority of this body did vote positively on
But
that.
Dr. Cappuccino could then go to CC,
yeah,
LC.
Well, LC.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, but under the current code, because they wanted to do that, she's in here, Dr. Cappuccino,
They wanted to do
whatever
that
her name,
initially.
whoever she is, supporting their neighbor. Of course, in her view, they should all be neighborhood professional. And then they kept bugging John that they want to be LC, and it's like, no, you can't use being green and neighborhood professional to say, oh, now I need to be LC because I need more parking. Because it clearly says, some of our ordinances are actually clear. Because it clearly says you can't use neighborhood professional to get an upgrade
Right.
to LC.
So, yeah.
So those two ordinances are actually really good.
Yeah.
It's the CC that's like,
Yeah, Madam Chair, yes, sorry. I know it's 10, but can, neighborhood professional, it was my understanding, we had no changes to that. So I guess I want to say, have we finished on community commercial, where we can recommend it back to the council for something?
I think we voted.
I think we
Okay.
had a second. I don't think we voted on it, because
Okay.
we didn't vote on it.
because someone stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, no,
So, but it was moved and seconded.
Roxanne and Leslie.
yeah,
Right.
for favor, sorry.
For a favorable recommendation to the council with the changes, the whereas changes,
Okay, yeah.
and that Tom was going to redline, even though they didn't like it, but redline it.
Yeah, that's fine. But for so we can just, so the council can handle both at once if we want. Neighborhood professional,
Well, all right, first, all those in
All right.
favor say aye.
I thought we did.
Opposed? Okay. That one goes back to council. Now we're at the NP,
All right.
which is 2022, 22.
Yeah, and I'll make, I would say the council, I told them there were no changes. It was just more, a little bit of clarifying languages, cleaning it up. So they still, for some reason, they voted it no on that.
I thought, did they even vote on
They
it?
read this?
That I cannot answer.
Okay, so we don't know if they've read it or not.
No, they sent it back to
Yeah, they sent it back, or to you all to make changes or resend
Yeah.
it back to us.
It's reintroduced.
These are the changes we made to send back to them.
I don't think
Originally.
Sent it back to them with these changes, and they didn't do anything. It said it.
Oh, look, there's
Well,
something.
let's send it back to them again.
Yeah, as is. So it was just,
Never mind.
But technically, these were introduced earlier in 2022. So this one here, community commercial, I have former ordinance number 2022-4. Can't remember which one of these, but when it came time to approve, one of them, I think, got a motion but no second, if I recall correctly, and the other got voted down.
Right.
yeah.
So then, I think the planning commission here wanted them to take another look at this. So that's why these were redrafted identically to what was before. They were introduced because they were new ordinances under our code.
Oh, there it
It was referred back to the planning commission for any additional changes or comments or
Yeah.
what have you.
Madam Chair, I just had a couple of quick comments on that, the way it's written. Tom, and maybe these are your questions, on the front page, the very last whereas, the next to the last line, for the purpose of making changes,
I'm sorry, which ordinance are you on?
2022-22.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and these are just very small things, but I think, again, the last whereas paragraph, the next to the last line, for the purpose of making changes, okay? And then along that same line, at the very bottom, the paragraph entitled Section 1, the next to the last line, just above where it says amendments, colon, it just reads odd to me, code and the town of Mount Airy be and is hereby repealed. Should it say Mount Airy?
Well, it's subsection A of the code of the town of Mount Airy B and is hereby repealed.
Be and
enacted
is hereby
with following
repealed.
amendments.
That's legalese, okay, gotcha. All right.
Have to change it, though.
No, no, if you understand
Clear understanding. That's all that matters.
You got it.
If I could quickly continue on second page, Bowlegs 3 at the top under purpose starts off with the neighborhood professional zone, so forth and so on.
Yep.
And then later, there's at the very bottom, there's a paragraph, capital C, limitation. I think they're saying two different things, but they sound awful similar. And so I think one is speaking to where a neighborhood professional zone can be adjacent to, that's the top Bowlegs 3. And then the C is really saying, and don't think of it in terms of anything other than a transition. Is that?
I think that's right, and this, what you're referring to in both instances is current code. It's not something being changed or added, so if there's some clarity there, that'd be, for instance, a place that you might want to recommend it. But I agree with you. It's duplicative. It's basically saying.
It seems, but I think there's a slightly different tone with that bottom
It's a
portion.
flip of the coin. It
Yeah.
says the same thing,
Gotcha.
I think.
And then for clarity, just for myself, on the third page and last comment, I promise.
Sure.
At the very bottom, there's Bowlegs 1 and 2. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Bowlegs 1, it talks about a prohibited use of a principal structure with a floor area greater than 2,000 square feet. So in the tone of this whole neighborhood professional, there's the encouragement to use existing residential structures.
Yeah.
And that particular line I referenced sounds like, but you can't use an existing residential structure beyond 2,000 square feet, which seems very restrictive.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Well, I think,
Very small.
was it related to when somebody wanted to add on, or wasn't there?
That was the code, that's how it's always been written.
Yeah.
We added the 2,500 extra square foot for,
Yeah, I would just add, given the normal dwelling size,
These days.
Well, I guess let's think, okay, neighborhood professional's been applied to more of the historic areas of town, right? Along Main Street and Park.
And across 27.
it fits in?
Yeah, it's not like, say, you're Nottingham or somewhere, I mean, those homes are much larger, but, so I guess I want to say, is the size, square footage size, I want to say relevant to the areas we want? Footprint, okay.
yeah, I think in Dr. Cappuccino's building is more than 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, it is more than
And I'm even thinking the red house that's right down from the Verizon store, that's a pretty big building too, and that's NP.
But the square, it's the footprint, not
Yeah,
the
it's the-
whole, not all the
right.
square
Okay,
footage.
it's not the total square footage. it's
So the
just-
foundation.
Footprint
Just
and
the foundation, the outline.
Gotcha.
Yep. The outline.
Yeah, that's all.
Sorry, I didn't
that's
have
all
my
I had.
microphone on.
What?
I had turned my microphone,
No,
no,
we-
I turned it back on.
We heard you, Chair Lady.
Okay,
Um,
what do we want to do?
So, I don't, I mean, I'm at a loss for words as to what we do with this. We have, This is what we would like to see. This is, we feel it makes it the most consistent. It's helping to clear up some inconsistencies and make it consistent. And this is why we recommend that it be kept this way. So are we all in agreement with that?
There's another maybe typo.
Okay.
Well.
Is there another typo?
Yeah, just very quickly. Second page, under B, hours of operation, proposed changes, Bowlegs 1 and 2. The wording in Bowlegs 1 reads, security lighting shall not be provided, whereas in Bowlegs 2, it reads, security lighting shall be not provided. I think the proper wording in the second Bowlegs 2 should be, shall not be provided. In other words, consistent.
Yeah. Okay.
One above it, just easy fix, so.
The thing to look at too, it's an existing code, but so it may need to be revised, or maybe it's, so if you look at prohibited uses, subsection 1,
Oh, what page again? Oh,
on page 3
sorry.
of 6 at the bottom.
Okay.
It says prohibited uses, the following uses are prohibited in the NP zone or district. Principal structures with a footprint floor area of greater than 2,000 square feet, except as permitted under section 112-38F. Well, that is subsection F, at least as we are revising it. So you're going to have to change F to refer to whatever it was initially intended to.
Yeah, it's now G. I assume that that's what we're
I think it's
talking about.
G either.
Detached. If that's even it, let's see.
I think I can tell from the existing ordinance. Just bear with me.
It also references it in Bowlegs 2 of G, the same ordinance, 11238F.
Oh, good catch, yeah.
I just like saying Bowlegs.
Bowleg, that's what you said?
I never
Boat-
heard it called that before.
I thought he was saying boat legs. I'm like,
Navy
what?
thing,
Boat
isn't it?
legs, okay, yeah.
That's a Navy thing, isn't it?
Or military or something.
I think this is meant to, that should change to 38G.
38G is.
What, there at the footprint? Uh-huh, yeah.
The current ordinance, it refers to, in other words, the next
Next,
subsection.
uh-huh.
So, should be G. John, was there another one?
Well, we're making changes, so,
So G, and then it refers to Bowlegs 2, 11238F as well, so I wasn't sure. I wouldn't think it'd be referencing the same one inside of its body.
I see
So
what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know.
So it's jumping down to height restriction 5, you see,
Right, 38F,
on the next page.
but that would be G5.
Yeah, this is now G.
38G.
Yep,
Right, G5.
Yep. That's correct.
Well, that's all the council needed. Let's make that
I'm-
change.
Comments more?
Fly right through this time.
You're so
Well, I
optimistic.
move to make those changes and send it back.
it's been moved that we make the changes that we were just talking about and send it back to the council. And hopefully I'll be able to talk about it. It won't be at like 10:15 when they get to this ordinance, but
Well, it won't be till November, Roxanne, because September 1's formed, I think. Today was closing date, so, okay.
But then we don't even need to.
Well, just get it,
well, let's just get it out of the way. So we're going to send it back to the council with the approval with the changes that we've made. And we got a second. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hey,
Those opposed? I thought,
Who seconded?
I don't know.
What's the
I
second?
made it. I don't know who seconded it.
Brian seconded it.
Yeah, I second.
Roxanne and then Brian.
No, Bill and then Brian.
We also have one more change that Ralph just picked up as well, inside the body of G. In the bow legs of A, 4A,
Okay.
that should be subsection G3.
Where is this? I'm sorry. Page 5. Excuse me, page 5, under 4A. Page 5, 4A at the top.
Subsection G.
Yeah.
Subsection F3 should be G3.
Anything else?
All right, we have 15 minutes.
Okay, fine. Roxanne, I'll just make it quick. I'll just pass on my report. The basic thing, the only thing we did was, that's plan related, we approved Green Tree concept plan.
All right.
And next council should be next Monday at 6:45, I believe. We have a hearing.
What's the hearing on? Oh, you don't know, okay, that's fine.
Not off the
One of the
top
charter
of my
member-
head.
one of the charter
Charter
things.
amendments or something.
Okay, we have the zoning report for August. We have our 2023 master plan work session on October the 6th at 6 PM. That's a Thursday? It's a Thursday. Our next planning commission meeting date is October the 31st, 2022.
Well, I know John might have mentioned that is Halloween. No, I'm just saying, the ones with little
I'm
kids
already
and
dressed.
grandkids.
Got my witch costume on.
I'll be the scarecrow with the pitchforks now.
Kind of funny when it.
I don't want everybody feels like if they want to change the date or leave the date on the 31st.
I'd like to move it up a week.
I'd like to move it to the 24th.
To the 24th? All right, will do. Now,
I'll let you know that the applicant for the Beck property has pulled the plan that they submitted today. They have some additional changes they said they need to make. So
Okay, so the one that they sent in that
They were complaining
ruined
about.
their, they took it back.
they rescinded the submission that they submitted today.
Okay.
oh,
All right.
They said, he slipped me a note and said needs to make changes to it or something, so.
Okay.
Won't be going to anybody.
but,
Shred it, John, right now.
I mean, it doesn't go to a workshop. We're just going to, well, it goes to a workshop, but we're continuing the workshop. We're not, it's not going back to ground zero. No.
Not currently.
Just FYI, so November, our meeting is the Monday after the Thanksgiving. It's the 28th of November.
Oh, that's the day after Thanksgiving?
No.
Monday.
It's the Monday after.
Monday after Thanksgiving. Okay.
And that's just a few days after our MPCA conference.
Monday, November, our meeting is November the 28th. It's the Monday after Thanksgiving.
5th and 26th.
Okay? Anything else?
I might be slow on the 28th, like you're saying.
Yeah, I know.
I'm from Florida.
Right.
Are you going to be on vacation?
Yeah, well, going there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Guess that's a-
You'll still have the turkey hangover.
Probably.
Okay. Anyone have anything else?
I can be at the master plan session. I've ascertained some childcare.
Okay, awesome.
And I'll send out calendar invites to everybody
Thank you.
for that.
All righty.
So the only other thing I wanted to top off is I did give you the needs assessment at your station, along with the master plan workshop items.
Okay.
I've already lost mine. I've already lost my ticket to the,
Oh, the ticket to the thing.
I have extras.
No, that's
Any copies of
Martinez.
them, because
I don't know why you gave it to me already. Just hold on to mine until,
105
I
down.
have it down.
There you go.
oh, I found it. And he also gave us the agenda for the workshop. So that was good. All right. Seeing nothing else, I'm going to adjourn this meeting.
Cool.
Everyone have a great week. Thank you all for your time and your attention to what we've done this evening.